Welcome back to the channel. This is Ready Storm, and you are watching second part of What If Naruto discovered that he had a twin sister. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Not wasting no more time. Let's start the story.
How many of those things can he make? Tenten inquired. According to Sakura, over 1,000 and still keep going. He's going to be strong soon with his weights, sword skills, and other skills, Tenten said, nodding. With a blink, Kushina inquired, how much weight does he have on? Tenten replied, the last time I checked he was up to 2,600 pounds total. As Kushina and Sakura widened their eyes, Konohamaru exclaimed, boss is cool. So how did you and my brother meet Konohamaru? Sakura inquired. Konohamaru stated, Naruto went to see Iruka who was at Grandpa's office when I came in and tried to attack Grandpa. I said he was the one who tripped me and made me fall, and after he learned who I was and my sensei showed up, he hit me and said he did not care if I was the Hokage grandmother. I followed him and he taught me the sexy no jutsu, and then my sensei showed up and said to stay away from such filth, and I tried using my sexy jutsu on him but it did not work, so boss made the harem jutsu and it knocked my sensei out. He then told me we were rivals for the title Fo Hokage and don't listen to my sensei when he told me there were shortcuts to being Hokage. I'm surprised he can get away with some of the stuff he does, Tenten remarked, laughing. Kushina replied, get away with, no outsmart. Yes, so how is his sword skills coming? Tenten replied, well, he is getting better, though he has only learned the proper way to hold a sword so far. Dad is making him do each exercise until he does it perfect 500 times in a row without messing up, or he has to start all over. He is also working an hour at my family weapon shop in the forge to pay off a challenge bet. Sakura inquired, so what do you think of him? Tenten commented that, he's unique kind, strong, tastes like ramen, caring, funny, and looks pretty good. So, how serious are you both? Sakura inquired. Tenten replied, I guess you could say we are getting to know each other better, but we have not done much besides a few kisses and have dinner together in the evenings after he works at the shop as well as trains. We do have some small talk and I am finding that he knows a little about a lot of things. Sakura laughed and replied, I am happy for him and you. Until recently I was in love with the Rookie of the Year and our other teammate, and he's a real ass. Tenten laughed and replied, yeah, I was the same way, but I got over my crush over my class's Rookie of the Year, though a part of me wishes things were different. I am glad they went the way they did. Your Rookie of the Year sounds like mine stuck-up ass who is always talking about fate. So were you a fangirl also? Sakura inquired. Tenten replied, hell no, I would bitch slap any fangirls that came around me. I may have like Neji, but my dream is more important to me and I want to prove that female ninja can be just as good as male ninja, just like my idol Tsunade-sama. When Sakura bowed her head, Kushina grinned and placed a hand on her shoulder, saying, there, dear, you're no longer a fangirl, so forget about it. Hey Naruto, what are you doing? Said Tenten. Naruto replied, I am trying to cut this leaf in half with my wind chakra, but it's hard. Tenten replied, well, why don't you come over here and spend some time with us, or we could train with you. Despite dropping the leaf, Naruto continued to operate his clones and asked, so, what do you want to talk about? All three teenagers gave Kushina a glare when he said, let's talk about grandchildren. For the next 2 months, things continued in this manner. The four of them would spend time at the Saratobi Estates every Sunday and Wednesday. Team 7 had completed numerous missions, but aside from improved teamwork, they had not really learned anything from Kakashi. He was disappointed by Naruto's use of his bloodline because all he could do was heal plants. Other than that, he had been unable to do anything. He was able to learn the wood styles, growth, birth of the dense foreset, and wood style. Wood clone without the need for hand seals, but it was the simplest because he only needed to feed a plant chakra. Several people questioned the third when he began acting strangely and kept staring at the gates as if the four horsemen of the apocalypse were approaching, but he claimed it was only a personal issue. Under Kushina, Tenten and Sakura's training advanced quickly along with a number of other low-rank Suiden jutsu. Both had learned the Suiden Uzumaki Undertow. One day, Dustin entered the Hokage's office and declared, I came to inform you that Tenten and Naruto will both be unable to do missions for the rest of the week, and you should pass it on that they won't be around until that time is up. Everything had appeared to be going smoothly until that moment. Why are two of my genins not going to do missions? The third one asked, looking up from his paperwork. Dustin stated, Tenten is suffering from major blood loss and Naruto is from chakra exhaustion as well as a few other problems related to his training. The third individual replied, I have not seen any hospital reports saying Tenten was hurt, and how is Naruto out of chakra? After checking to make sure no one was in the office, Dustin took a kuniya out of his pocket and remarked, I'm sure you know what this is, it's related to that. With wide eyes, the third one inquired, "How?" Dustin grinned as he left the office, saying, "I need to go back to my house and see how those two are doing. I don't want to be a grandfather CYA. I am the only person alive who knows the secret of it, and only Naruto will know it along with my daughter Tenten." Grinning, the third remarked, "This is an interesting twist." Dustin grinned as he considered the events of the previous day. Rewind. Tenten was waiting at the door, locking it as Naruto entered, putting the close sign on the door and saying, "Dad needs to talk to us," and he said it was important. Naruto had arrived at the Wolf Claw weapon shop for his daily lessons. Dustin sat at the dining table and said, "I'm glad you hear, Naruto. Your training has come along nicely and it's time for you to learn a jutsu that I have been training you to use. It's time for you to learn the Hireishin." Naruto nodded and moved into the back, carrying a Tenten behind him. Tenten said, "But how, Dad? Nobody knows how it works. I know you can make the kuniyas and all, but how are you going to teach him that?" As Naruto's eyes widened. As Dustin put it, "Sit down and I will explain it." He said, "Okay, I do know the secret of the jutsu, but I need to ask you, Naruto, are you willing to let Tenten know the secret, and are you willing to do whatever it takes to learn this jutsu, no matter how embarrassing or stressful it is?" As they sat down next to each other across from him. Upon reflection, Naruto uttered the words, "Yes, I trust Tenshin with my life and that of my family." "All right," Dustin said, "I'll now reveal the Hireishin secret. As you are already aware, the Yondaime would flash to wherever the Kuniya was. But no one had ever figured out how he did it in reality. He deceived everyone into thinking he was doing one thing while he was actually doing another. You see, people assumed he was traveling at unfathomable speed to reach each Kuniya, but in reality, he was calling himself to each location. Your dad made the item that has summoned himself, and the seals on the Kuniya are of two types. The summoning seal and a genjutsu seal that causes everyone to see the yellow flash when he appears instead of smoke, as you are aware from your sealing skills. When you seal something in a scroll and then unseal it, you are summoning it back from wherever it is. I don't know where he got the seals, but I know them. All I have to do is put the seal on you, then make the kuniyas with the summoning seal on them, and then have you practice learning how to deal with more than one kuniya at a time. It may seem easy to just summon himself to each point, but in reality, he had a seal on his body that made it where he would be summoned safely." Naruto replied, "So the big secret is there is a seal on Dad that actually summoned him. That is a big prank. So how do I do it?" Dustin replied, "Well, the thing is I have to put a seal on you, and since your weight suit is maxed out, I also want to put the actual weight seal on you so that way you can keep upping them without having to buy a new weight suit." Naruto replied, "Okay, that's fine because my old one was getting tight anyways, so when do we start?" Dustin stated, "It depends on Tenten Bekwase. She has the important part of this." "What do you need me to do, Dad?" Tenten asked. Dustin murmured, "I need your blood to mix with the ink to make the seals, so that means I am going to have you let me hook you up to that machine we have for blood seals, and no, we can't get blood from the hospital because the amount we need is more than they allow us. You are going to need soldier and blood pills, and you will also have to be there to help me if Naruto passes out or runs out of chakra." Staring at Naruto, Tenten remarked, "I can be ready in a few minutes." "Are you sure?" asked Naruto. Tenten replied, "Relax, I've done it before for simple seals, so it's not like I don't know what to expect, but it will make me tired for a few days while my body restore my blood. Besides, like your mom said, I am part of your family." Dustin replied, "Okay, we will be in the sealing room. Naruto, follow me." Dustin told Naruto, "Okay, strip," as he led him to the sealing room, where they sealed all of their weapons to prevent anyone from discovering their secrets. With a blink, Naruto questioned, "What?" Dustin murmured, "The seals for the two seals I am putting on you have to go over your entire body. The Hireishin seal makes a small bubble appear around you, but if say I don't put it on your arm and you perform the jutsu, you could wind up losing your arm, so I have to put in on your arms, legs, torso, and head, and they have to be connected, so you have to be naked for me to make the seals and connect them. The same goes for the weight seal." "But Tenshin," said Naruto, flushed. Dustin continued, "We'll have to see you naked. Yes, I know, that's why I asked if you would be willing to do anything even if it was embarrassing, but I need her help in case you pass out, as well as her having to be here so I can have her blood running into my ink machine, and the fact that if you ever want to teach this to your children, someone will have to know how to put it on." Dustin sighed and said, "Just think of it as giving her a free show to show her how good you look. Now strip." Naruto said this. When Tenten entered and passed out, Naruto slowly stripped and lay on the ground as instructed. After giving her a dose of smelling salt to wake her up and making her red-faced, Dustin hooked her up with an IV that connected to the ink machine, which would mix her blood with a special ink so he could create the seals. As Dustin began working, he stopped after a while when he reached the stomach and said, "Okay, Naruto, I need you to start channeling some chakra so the Kyuubi seal appears, and don't stop so I don't mess with it." Tenten looked at him, but she stole a few glances away from his face before looking back up when she thought she was about to faint. Both Tenten and Dustin, who are seal experts, took a moment to examine the seal after Naruto nodded and put his hand on his stomach. Dustin then proceeded to apply the seal. Dustin completed and activated the final seal about 2 hours later, using 2 blood pills and 1 soldier pill for Tenten. The seal burned into Naruto's skin, causing him to scream in agony, but he quickly passed out, and Tenten did the same a short while later, but from blood loss. With a sigh, Dustin grabbed a blanket and several pillows, carried them over to the unconscious teenagers, covered them, placed the pillows beneath their heads, and took the IV out of their Tenten arm. The flashback is over. Dustin grinned as he entered and noticed that they had huddled close to one another for warmth while they slept. However, he had covered Naruto with a second blanket to ensure that she wouldn't cough and that the Tenten cloths would mysteriously disappear from her body. Even though he liked and trusted the boy, he was determined to keep his daughter safe for as long as possible. After waking up the following day, feeling rejuvenated, Naruto noticed that Tenten was still out and heard a noise in another room. He dressed and proceeded to the forge room, where he observed Dustin engaged in some work. "So what did you mean the other day when you said that you have been training me to use the Hiraishin?" Naruto asked. "Do you remember the first task I gave you when you started training? Where I told you that your sword had 4 seals and you could only find 3? Dustin paused, approached Naruto, and asked. Naruto replied, "Yeah, I thought it was a joke because I still have not found it." Dustin replied, "The reason you can't find it is because it is hidden. Hand me your sword a moment." Dustin pointed to the sheath and said, "Since you know more about swords from working here, tell me what's wrong with this sheath." After Naruto took his sword off his back and gave it to him. After a few moments of contemplation, Naruto remarked, "The end of the sheath is flat where all other ones are rounded." Dustin nods and said, "Correct the flat end down. There is a special material that transfers chakra, but underneath that material there is a modified Hiraishin seal on it. Where the Kunia require a blood seal, I reworked it where you can put a temporary chakra marker on an enemy with the butt end of your sheath. That's why I have been teaching you to hit the butt end into enemies when you get an opening. If you channel chakra into the sheath like I have been training you to, then you have about 3 minutes after you hit someone with the butt end before the seal disappears. And what's best about it is since it's chakra base, nobody can copy it, and unless there are 2 Hyugas and one tells the other it's there, then they won't know either. Your dad wanted it made that way, so that way if you could not pull out a Kunia because of the situation that you could still tag someone. He took his own flaw and made it where it was fixed. Of course, he had not figured out how to do it, but I came up with that. Now I want you to rest the rest of the day since you have this week off, and we will train you to use the markers." While Tenten recovered and gave tips on how to do it better, Naruto worked on the Hiraishin over the course of the following few days. By the end of the week, both were happy with the training and sealing, as well as their recuperation. When Naruto and Tenten entered the Hokage's office to resume their duties, they noticed Yamato there and that he did not appear to be happy. Naruto replied, "Hey old man, what's wrong? You look like someone died." Yamato replied, "Naruto, Tenten, how are you both doing? Are you ready to return for mission?" Naruto replied, "Yeah, we both got over why we had to be out of service." The third individual replied, "Alright, I need both of you to get ready and meet Yamato at the front gate in 1 hour. Your teams need you." Naruto inquired, "What's happening?" Yamato responded, "Since you both were out, the Hokage combined both teams but took Guy off to do regular mission. A summoned dog arrived earlier this morning saying the mission they're on went from a C rank to a rank. They have ran into a missing nin named Zabuza. They had a fight and Kakashi is down with injuries as is Zabuza, but they need more help. Prepare for combat and high-speed travel. Meet me at the gate in 1 hour." And fled in a leafy flurry. After giving Tenten a quick glance and both of them nodding, Naruto said, "Tell my mom what's going on," and they both walked away. They had just reached the gates and were ready to depart when an earthquake struck, followed by an explosion. A short distance ahead there was a huge ass toad in front of them, and the area was covered in dust. 2 women and a man leapt from the toad and headed for the Hokage tower. As the toad rose in smoke, Yamato said, "Come on, we have to go," and took off. As they closely followed Yamato, Naruto and Tenten turned to face the retreating figure. Tenten remarked, "I know the man was Jiraiya-sama, but I could not tell who the 2 women were." Yamato replied, "I believe that was Tsunade-sama, but I can't be sure. We don't have time to worry about it. Your teammates are in trouble." After glancing at Yamato, Naruto questioned, "How fast can you go, Yamato?" Yamato remarked, "I can go faster. Why?" Tenten was staring at Naruto. "Tenten, hop on my back. I am zeroing my weights out. I know you're fast, but you also were not expecting to have to do this right after using so much blood." Yamato takes off even faster after Tenten nods and leaps on his back. But he is shocked to find that Naruto was even faster than he was before. Naruto questioned, "So what do we know about this Zabuza guy?" As they matched pace, Tenten replied, he's a former member of the Seven Swordsmen of the Mist. He tried to assassinate the Mizukage according to the report Kakashi sent. He has an assistant that is discussed as a hunter nin and is skilled with senbons. Evidently a man named Gato wants the client killed and has hired Zabuza to do it. He also has some merc that we may have to deal with. Less talk, more travel, Yamato said, gradually increasing his speed to the point where Naruto could easily match it. He knew the end was near when he felt the earthquake back in Konoha on the 3rd and saw Gambunta at the front gate when the doors to his office were broken off the hinges. A few moments later, Tsunade stood there looking irate and said, this had better not be some sick joke. Jiraiya, go get Kushina, she's at the library, the 3rd said. Tsunade asked, where are they? As Jiraiya nods and walks away. As soon as Jiraiya and Kushina arrived, the 3rd person said, just wait for Kushina to get here so I don't have to reap. The 3rd sighed, then pulled out the elemental card that Naruto had used first and showed them that it contained wood. Well, now that everyone is here and the doors are closed, I guess I should introduce you. Tsunade, this is Kushina Uzumaki Namikaze, widow of Minato Namikaze, who I believe was your son since Naruto possesses your grandfather's bloodline. Tsunade replied, why do you suspect he was my son? As far as you know I never had any children. The 3rd individual replied, because you would not have come back if Minato was not your son, since you would not believe Jiraiya not to come back. Minato gave me the clue, since blondes have never been popular in Konoha. Besides you, the Yamankas are the only other blondes. Sighing, Tsunade uttered, damn you, yes, he was my son. Why did you never tell him or me? Inquired Jiraiya. As she sat down, Tsunade said, simple, I had him a little over 9 months after losing my brother. You figure the rest out. With wide eyes, Jiraiya uttered, then he was. Tsunade did not say anything. We were both too young and stupid to take care of a child, and we had a war going on that we could not stop, so I put him in the orphanage to protect him. It was not until I met Dan that I felt I was ready for a family, and then I tried to find him and saw that he was with you, so I decided that it would be best if he never knew, and since you treated him as a son I thought it would be best for everyone. Remembering being placed in the pervert's book, Kushina moaned and uttered, don't tell me the lecher was Minato. Father, damn it, that makes it even worse. Where are Naruto and his sister? Shizune inquired. The 3rd replied, Naruto and Tenten just left a few minutes before you arrived to go to Wave Country. The mission theater teams were on turn from a C rank to an A rank. Is Sakura alright? Inquired Kushina. The 3rd replied, yes, but they ran into a missing nin named Zabuza and Kakashi been injured, so until Yamato arrives there are only 4 genins. As Tsunade put it, where? They are on their way to Wave Country, the 3rd person said. Shizune and Kushina took the 3rd after Jiraiya left the window before anyone could see her, and Tsunade followed. Kushina replied, you might as well stay with me until they return. I should be with, Shizune said. She sighed and said, alright. I guess that I should accept. She left with Kushina, who was concerned, after seeing Gambunta emerge once more and take off, with 2 figures visible on top. Atop Gambunta, Jiraiya turned to face the woman next to him and remarked, you could have told me, he was my son after all. Tsunade looked at him and said, Jiraiya, what kind of parents would we have been between me being a depressed alcoholic gambler and you being a super pervert, not to mention that if our enemies would have found out then nothing would have been able to protect him. Jiraiya replied, I know that, but still I could have spent more time with him. I could have told him who his father was. I could have been there for our grandchildren. I think that's them. He was pointing. A sudden explosion rocked behind Yamato and Naruto as they were moving quickly, revealing the enormous toad standing there. Jiraiya-sama, what's going on? Said Yamato. Tsunade leapt to her feet, glanced around at the group, and asked, are you Naruto? As Naruto put it, yeah, who wants to know? Tenten said, Naruto-kun, that's Tsunade-sama, while squealing in his ear. With a blink, Naruto uttered, so you're my grandmother. Tsunade replied, yes, though I did not know your father was married or had children. I would like to see you use your bloodline. After removing a seed and saying, growth, the seed abruptly sprouted and became a flower. According to Tsunade, so you do have it, Yamato responded, I am sorry to interrupt this happy reunion, but we need to move to save your teams. Jiraiya responded, hop on Gambunta here, he can get us to Wave faster than running. According to Gambunta, why should I? Jiraiya, he's my grandson and next in line for your contract, Jiraiya said, gesturing to Naruto. With a blink, Naruto uttered the words, grandson. After glancing at him, Tenten questioned, how many powerful ninja are you related to Naruto-kun? Jumping on Gambunta, Yamato yelled, less talking, more moving. Tenten and Tsunade Naruto leapt on Gambunta, and Jiraiya commanded, use chakra to hold on. They then flew in the direction of the wave. 3 men approached Sakura as she was strolling through the village in wave country, and one of them said, "You're one of those ninja from Konoha, you're coming with us." "I don't think so," Sakura said as she began to fight, but one of the men got behind her and knocked her out because she wasn't fast enough, and the only offensive jutsu she knew required water due to her poor Taijutsu. After knocking her unconscious, the man remarked, "So much for a genin from Konoha." "That's what they get for not training them like we do in Mist," remarked a different man. The third individual replied, "You both need to shut up. Gato made a deal with us for the capture of Zabuza. As long as we take out the old man, he should just let us kill him and collect our bounty." But the Mizukage said to follow Gato orders as if they came from him. Apparently Gato and the Mizukage are close friends. The initial individual stated, "I heard that Gato is the one who is running the slave ring for all the bloodline whores we have. Well, we better return and inform Gato we have her." Sakura was carried over one of the 3 men's shoulders as they departed, but none of them noticed that someone was listening in on their brief conversations or that the person had melted into an ice mirror a few seconds later. A few hours later, they finally reached the shore before they had to allow Gambunta to swim on top of the water to get across, even though nobody said more than a few words to Wave. After reading the note that was left on the door with a kunai, Kakashi sighed and remarked, "So Sakura was captured by Gato's men yesterday and they wish to have a trade. Sakura for Tazuna. It's her fault for being weak," said Sasuke. According to Neji, it was her fate to be captured. After giving them both a quick glance, Lee remarked, "Both of your flames of youth are demished. We got company heading for the bridge. It might be Gato. Let's go," Kakashi said, letting out a sigh before turning to face the bridge. Lee inquired, "How do you know that, Kakashi-sensei?" As he stood up and Tazuna followed, the genin and Kakashi departed. "I have a Kajbunshin at the bridge in case someone comes and tries to destroy it, and it sensed several powerful people approaching the bridge and it dispelled to tell me." Gambunta said, "Well Jiraiya, this is as far as I am going. I see the bridge right there that I can see connects to Wave, so good luck." Tenten had to hold on to Naruto to prevent him from falling off, and he vanished in smoke as soon as they all stepped onto the bridge. "We need to find Sakura and the others," Naruto stated. "Jiraiya, Tsunade, Yamato, I knew I felt Gambunta coming toward the island. It's good to see you again, but unfortunately that's not going to be easy. Naruto, Sakura been captured," said Kakashi, who had just arrived on foot with Lee, Neji, and Sasuke along with an elderly man. Naruto approached Kakashi, grabbed him by his vest, and shook him like a rag doll before asking, "What do you mean Sakura been captured? Where were you at when she was captured, and why did you not stop it from happening?" Tenten said, "Naruto-kun, please put him down so he can explain." After dropping him on his ass, Naruto uttered the words, "Where is she?" As Zabuza and a masked hunter Nin emerged from the mist, a voice said, "She is being held prisoner by a group of Mist Black Ops in Gato's base. They want to ransom her for the old man." Together with his team, Kakashi moved into a defensive stance and questioned, "What are you doing here, Zabuza? Come to finish off Tazuna?" The individual next to Zabuza stated, "My name is Haku and I am Zabuza's assistant. I overheard the Mist Nins talking when they captured your pink-haired teammate in the market. I told my master Gato is planning on giving Zabuza to them once the bridge builder is dead." Zabuza replied, "I don't like being double-crossed, and the men that have her would kill me before I left the island if they could find me, and they have already killed 4 of the 7 swordsmen already there, the Mizukage's personal black ops." With a kunai at his neck, Naruto emerged behind Haku and said icily, "Where is she at?" Zabuza replied, "I will only tell if you agree to an alliance. She is safe for now, but Gato said once the mission is complete that the Mist Nins can have fun with her, and not until." Everyone was shocked when Tsunade said, "You got your alliance, now where is she?" However, because she was a Sannin, she was superior to everyone else there except Jiraiya. Haku stated, "Gato hideout is 2 miles north of the village. It's a big building hanging by some trees." Lee remarked, "He's as fast as me," as Naruto declared, "I'm gone," and began to fly in the direction of the village, leaving a dust cloud in his wake. As he fled after Naruto, Yamato uttered the words, "Damn it Naruto, you're not going to help her if you get yourself killed." Without averting his gaze, Kakashi questioned, "Tsunade, you can't be ready to believe Zabuza and Haku?" Jiraiya replied, "I may not trust them, but I believe them. I have heard of Gato before from my spy network, and he's a snake in the grass. I will agree also to an alliance, but should you try to double-cross us Zabuza, I will kill you." As Tsunade took off in the same manner as Naruto, she said, "Take a number Tenten. You stay with Kakashi and the others to protect the bridge builder Zabuza. You are coming with us." Tenten was saying, "Jiraiya-sama, please take care of Naruto-kun and Sakura." With a nod, Jiraiya left, trailing Tsunade, Zabuza, and Haku. With a sigh, Kakashi remarked, "So why were you and Naruto unable to be on our teams for the last week?" As she approached Neji and Lee, Tenten remarked, "I had severe blood loss and Naruto-kun had chakra exhaustion." Lee replied, "Your flames of youth brightly ten, it's good to see you Aegean." "How is the Dobi so fast?" inquired Sasuke. According to Tenten, that's his secret. Gazing at Tenten, Kakashi questioned, "Why did the Hokage send 2 Sanins as well as 2 Genins and an Anjunin for this mission?" Tenten replied, "I don't know why you would have to ask them or the Hokage. I do know it originally started off just Yamato, Naruto and me." Kakashi narrowed his eyes and said, "Then can you tell me why Naruto had chakra exhaustion?" According to Tenten, "Sorry, family secret," Kakashi responded, "but Naruto does not have any family to be secrets with, he's an orphan." Tenten looked around and tensed, saying, "Sorry, family secret." She then said, "Shit, we got company." This caused everyone to turn to look where she was looking and saw that a group of almost 200 mercs were standing at the end of the bridge. As Naruto heard Yamato shouting for him to stop, he sighed and stopped running in the direction he had been instructed. "You know better than that, Naruto. You don't run into battle without thinking," Yamato said as he swiftly caught up to him. While Zabuza and Haku landed next to her, Tsunade said, "Which way, Zabuza?" Zabuza stated, "About a half mile in that direction." When Jiraiya eventually caught up, she gave Naruto a headshake and remarked, "You're acting foolish, Gaki, think or they'll kill her." As he leapt in the direction Zabuza indicated, leaving behind a number of stunned adults and an astonished Haku, Naruto exclaimed, "I already got a plan, come on and don't slow me down." When Naruto came to a stop at the edge of a clearing, he saw the building Zabuza had mentioned and said, "Hold on Sakura, I'm coming." He sealed his hands, made a clone, and gave it his weapons before transforming into his sexy, non-jutsu form, wearing shorts and a shirt that appeared to have been torn off, but she was holding it together with her hand. She had a single kunai on the inside of the shirt, and she jumped to the ground, screaming, "Help, someone save me." When the adults heard a female yell, "Help, somebody save me, he's going to kill me," they all landed next to the clone in the tree. "Don't move, it's the real me," the clone said. "What do you mean the real you?" inquired Jiraiya. "I'm Akage Bunshin, who's holding his weapons and stuff," the clone declared. Just as Tsunade opened her mouth to speak, 5 men emerged from the door, and the girl cried out in fear, "Help, that man with the huge sword tried to attack me, help." Zabuza replied, "I have you know I may be an ass but I would never do that." The clone hanged to resemble Zabuza, then leapt down and ran in the direction of the female Naruto after saying, "Just stay here and watch." The 5 men were saying, "Zabuza, what the hell are you doing back here? Gatos order us to kill you. You think you can beat one of the 7 swordsmen?" Zabuza clone smirked and charged at the men, saying, "I've come to collect my revenge for that fat bastard double-crossing me." Naruto ran inside the building and began searching every room for Sakura while they were preoccupied with the clone female. Despite limping, the clone Zabuza said, "I guess I will have to have my fun later," and ran in the opposite direction of the real Zabuza after getting about 5 feet away from the men. Everyone watched as the 5 men exchanged glances and began to pursue him, only to halt when the clone turned and said, "Sexy no jutsu." They all flew backwards with nosebleeds, not anticipating that the man they were going to kill would transform into a nude girl. The clone charged quickly and stabbed each of the men in the head with his sword after they were perverted by that image and the imagined harm Zabuza was supposed to do to the girl. "The kid is either a genius or damn lucky," Jiraiya remarked. The clone halted, turned around, began to tremble, and let his sword fall as he gazed down at the bodies. Yamato yelled, "Damn it!" from the top of the tree and leapt down to the clone, who unfortunately perished in the smoke. "Tsunade, you have to get over it and fast, the kid's freezing up and it will get him killed," Jiraiya said, glancing at the frozen Tsunade. "First kill," Zabuza sighed as he saw the response. The female Naruto hesitated inside the compound as the clone's information returned, and he was beginning to tremble when he heard Sakura scream. He ran toward the location of the scream, forgetting about the kill for the moment, and discovered Sakura in a 4-foot cage with a man thrusting a stick inside and stabbing her. It would injure her but not kill her because it had a metal ball on the end of the stick. A senbon needle pierced the man's heart just as Naruto was about to kill him, glaring and saying, "You picked the wrong girl to mess with." Haku was standing there, nodding, when Naruto turned around. When Sakura looked up and Naruto let go of the henge, she grinned before passing out. After hearing Haku say, "The key is over here," Naruto proceeded to a wall and removed a key from the hook before attempting to open the cage. Haku opened the cage, and Naruto nodded and said, "Thanks. I think she's just exhausted, but could you check her? The bastard on the floor was hitting her with that pole." Naruto leaned down to pick her up and handed her to Tsunade, who placed her on the ground and began checking her. Tsunade had just entered the room then, when his clone dispelled from Jiraiya, who had picked them up. He snatched his sword and the other weapons that had fallen to the ground. When Naruto said, "Shit, tension in trouble at the bridge," and vanished in a flash of yellow, Tsunade nodded as she was done. Everyone knew what jutsu that was, and they were all in a state of shock when it happened. After grabbing Sakura, they all headed for the bridge, but not before Jiraiya summoned a food cart and left a brief message on the structure. Approximately 15 minutes prior, Tenten looked around and tensed, saying, "Sorry, family secret." She then said, "Shit, we got company." This caused everyone to turn to look where she was looking and saw that a group of almost 200 mercs were standing at the end of the bridge. Kakashi replied, "Defensive formation, Tenten, you're a long-range support fighter, right?" Tenten pulled up his Sharingan after nodding and saying, "I want you to cover us and the client Neji. Take the ones on the left, Lee. Sasuke, you take the ones on the right. I will take the middle and cover both groups with mid-range, just you." They all charged, but stopped when Tenten said, "Twin Rising Dragon." All four of them turned to watch her as she leapt into the air and began hurling her weapons down onto the merc, killing about 75 before she had to land because her weapons ran out. Sasuke glared at him. Glaring at her, Sasuke began to make hand gestures and exclaimed, "Fire style. Phoenix Fireball Jutsu." He then fired out 7 fireballs, 2 of which struck a man, barely burning him. While Lee was using his speed to break bones and knock people out, Neji assumed the gentle fist stance and began striking men in the heart, killing them one by one. By the time clapping could be heard and the fighting ceased, Kakashi realized there were only roughly 30 merc remaining. Everyone turned to see Gato standing there with 3 men in mist uniforms. "I must thank you all for killing those men so now I don't have to pay them," Gato said, adding, "I'm sure you will have no problem taking care of them now that they are weakened." The man who was taller said, "We will have no problem. The only threat was Kakashi, but as you can see he's still not 100% from his fight with Zabuza, and the bloodline user will be dead before he can use it." Neji was staring. "Good," Gato said, "then kill them." After the trio nodded and moved forward, Kakashi uttered the words, "Damn it, regroup." After backing up to Tenten's location, Lee, Sasuke, and Neji asked, "What's the plan?" Kakashi continued, "We stall for time. Hopefully Jiraiya and the others will finish soon and we could get some more help. I just wished we could get a message to them that we need help, since Zabuza said these guys were the Mizukage personal spec ops," as each of them assumed a fighting posture. Tenten sighed and took a 3-pronged kunai out of her kunia pouch, saying, "Got no choice, Kakashi. We can get a message to them, or at least Naruto throw this." "Are you sure you know what this is, right?" Kakashi asked, his eyes wide. Snorting, Tenten said, "Just throw it." With a nod, Kakashi said, "I hope you're right." He then threw it at the men and began to make hand gestures, saying, "Kage Kunia no Jutsu." The one transformed into 20 Kunias, all of which were moving toward the men. Just as they were about to dodge, they all landed directly in front of them. "The great copycat Kakashi can't even throw a Kunia. I'm disappointed," the taller one said, laughing. Praying that it would work, Kakashi grinned and remarked, "I would take that as an insult if it had been any other Kunia but those." When a yellow flash suddenly appeared on the bridge, Naruto turned to see Tenten and the others, but he flashed again when he felt someone behind him. When he reappeared, he saw 3 ninja from the mist were turning to attack him again, so he flashed again, reaching for his sword, only to flash again as he took it out and flashed again, this time appearing next to a man and slashing him in the side before flashing on the other side of the 3 and slashing another man. It seemed like a dream to Kakashi, who was wielding his Sharingan, as he appeared to be attacked and then vanished in an instant. As Naruto completed his final flash, everything went up in smoke after he reached the Kunia, with the exception of the real one, where the tall man on the left fell into a puddle of water and stabbed Naruto with his sword from behind. Before Naruto could move him, the second man replaced himself with the body of one of the mercs. Jiraiya showed up with a Rasengan in his hand and slammed it into the man who had stabbed Naruto after Tenten screamed and Kakashi became enraged and prepared to charge. "Never double-cross a demon," was said by Zabuza as he beheaded Gato as he proceeded to the area where Yamato was battling the final nin standing, just after Tsunade arrived holding Sakura. After beginning to go through hand signs, Kakashi grabbed the man's wrist, made a Chidori, rushed forward, and stabbed him in the heart. When Gato and the 3 ninjas arrived, Sasuke took out a Kunia and charged the remaining merc who had been standing aside. One of them tried to stab them, but another one killed him and Sasuke had to dodge. He ducked again as a third merc attempted to stab him from behind. Sasuke closed his eyes and waited for death. When an axe descended on his location, he knew he had no time to dodge. Even though the axe appeared to slow down, Neji trailed behind Lee, who stepped in front of him and kicked the man away, continuing the battle until the final merc. Sasuke stood up and began to participate in the fights. Noticing that everyone was moving more slowly, he glanced at the adults near Naruto, but when he turned around, he saw that Neji and Lee had already defeated the other men. Tenten slid next to Naruto's form and applied pressure to the stab wound after she saw him fall and ran toward him, leaving the client. When Jiraiya approached and took Sakura, she handed her to Haku, who was standing next to Tsunade. Haku pulled back and slapped Tsunade across the face, saying, "You are the only one who can save him, so do your job or watch another loved one die." Tsunade was motionless with Sakura in her arms. Since the pain in Jiraiya's words helped her forget her fear and made her hands glow green, Tsunade moved forward and knelt next to him. She began healing his body, but discovered that her chakra was partially blocked, so she forced the healing. She discovered that the sword's poison was the cause of her chakra block. She replied, "Kakashi, can you copy medical jutsu?" Kakashi approached her and replied, "Yeah." Tsunade replied, "Copy and start using the just you. I am doing so. I can go and work on removing the poison." Tsunade paused and began another jutsu that caused her hands to glow purple and black fluid to start oozing from the wound, while Kakashi watched her for a moment and mimicked the jutsu, causing his hands to glow blue and begin healing Naruto. Sakura thought she was dreaming when she started to wake up in Haku's arms while Tenten held Naruto's head in her lap, sobbing and hoping he would be okay. She realized it was not a dream as she looked around and saw everyone gathered around Naruto. She attempted to get up, but Haku grabbed her by the neck and said, "No, right now you would only be in the way. Let them help him." Sakura asked, "Who are you and what's going on?" after glancing at Haku. Jiraiya replied, "This is Haku. Him and Zabuza told us where you were and helped in rescuing you. Naruto killed 5 people to save you, and then somehow he used the Yondaime Hiraishin to come back here to the bridge. I don't know what happened before we made it back, but there was a dead nin along with a lot of dead mercs on the ground, and Naruto had a sword in his back." Sakura tried to escape but was unable to do so because Haku put his arms around her and she began to cry. Following the removal of the poison, Tsunade began assisting Kakashi in healing Naruto. She paused after 10 or so minutes, sighed, and got to her feet, saying, "That's all we can do. It's up to him to pull through now." Sasuke replied, "What was that just you he used earlier, and who do I need to talk to learn it?" Jiraiya replied, "That Judas he used was the Hiraishin and you can't learn it." Says Sasuke. "Why not?" Jiraiya replied, "A, it can't be copied, and B, the only 2 people in the world who know how the jutsu works is Naruto and the Yondaime." Tears streaming down Tenten's cheeks, she pleaded, "Please, Naruto-kun, come back to me. Don't leave me, not like this." Then she leaned forward and kissed him on the lips, saying, "It's my fault. I shouldn't have let that kunai be used. You told me to keep it for emergency, and I thought that with what Kakashi said we could not win, so I told him to use it. Please don't leave me. I love you." He materialized in front of Kyuubi's cage inside Naruto's head, and he questioned, "What the hell am I doing here? You're dying. The only thing that can save you is your true power. I am not ready to die, Somi, and you are going to fight now." The Dark Naruto then charged Naruto. To avoid confusion, I will refer to the good Naruto by his correct name and call the Dark Naruto Arashi from now on. Arashi charged at Naruto, who dodged the blow and punched Arashi in the ribs before taking an elbow to the head in return. Naruto staggered back, but Arashi blocked his roundhouse kick. Naruto then punched Arashi in the knee, attempting to break the joint, but he ended up feeling as though his own knee had broken. Arashi attempted to punch Naruto in the stomach, but it was blocked. Naruto then punched Arashi in the chest, feeling himself hit there, and they both fell to the ground. Gasping for air, Naruto and Arashi both got back up, but they had lost the speed battle for the time being. Arashi replied, "You might as well give up because you can never beat me. Like I told you, I will always be here and always will be. Every time you hurt me, you hurt yourself." Naruto paused, turned to face Arashi, and cracked his knuckle. He heard Arashi crack his own, but his hand remained motionless. Naruto replied, "Hey furball, what did you call him the first time I was here? My doppelganger?" Kyuubi replied, "Yeah, what of it, boy?" Naruto stabbed himself in the heart with a kunai after saying, "I see there is no way for me to defeat you, for you or me. You can't defeat me either. I know get why I could not hurt you and why every time something happened to my body it happened to you too." While Naruto stood there staring at him without even bleeding, Arashi gasped as blood spurted out of his chest and he fell to the ground. Naruto's eyes glossed over as Arashi began to glow green and blue and transform into pure energy. When Kyuubi uttered the words, You may have beat your own darkness, but you will never beat me. Naruto was abruptly driven from his thoughts. After Tenten had just planted a kiss on Naruto outside, everyone gasped as his eyes slowly opened and his whole body was enveloped in green energy that quickly turned blue. Is everyone alright? He asked in a feeble voice, his eyes no longer blue but the same shade of green as Sakura's. When Sakura heard Naruto, she jerked away from Haku, rushed over to give him a hug, and said, "Yes, everyone is fine." Naruto closed his eyes and went back to sleep after grinning and saying, "I'm glad I'm really tired, sis." Kakashi questioned, "Why did he call you sis, Sakura?" as Sakura grinned. After a brief pause, Sakura uttered, "He trusts me enough that he thinks of me as family Kakashi." At that moment, a group of merc ran to the bridge seeing Gato dead. A merc said, "They killed our meal ticket, let's get them." They then cautiously approached the group of nins, keeping in mind that there were numerous dead men on the ground. Jiraiya assumed a fighting stance and remarked, "I guess they found out that we broke Sakura out, huh?" As he removed his sword from his back, Zabuza remarked, "It was not hard when you had that toad fall onto the building, breaking it from its support beams." When Tsunade said, "You chose the wrong day to play with me," she cracked her knuckles. With a kunai in each hand, Kakashi declared, "I will not allow you to hurt any of my allies." Unaware that his Sharingan was active, Sasuke grinned and prepared himself like Kakashi. Neji entered the first Kata stance and activated his bloodline. Everyone started to perspire when Lee declared, "I will not let you harm any Leaf Shinobi or ally, or I will run all the way to Suna and back 20 times without stopping." Tenten seized Naruto's sword, which was currently unsheathed, and uttered the words, "I will not allow you to hurt Naruto-kun." Haku replied, "First you boss kidnaps a beautiful woman and then plans to double-cross my master. Now that he's dead you want revenge. I will grant you revenge with a swift death." When Sakura noticed that Naruto was still out and that everyone appeared worn out but prepared for battle, Haku said, "No, I will not let you harm anyone precious to me. I will not be weak." This made everyone turn to face her, and she remembered what her mother had said. She then lifted her shirt sleeve, bit her thumb, and ran the blood across the number 13, and all of a sudden a beam of light shot out of the number and struck the water next to the bridge. When the sound of something soaking wet walked onto the bridge, a dense mist covered it, preventing the merc from charging any further. Kakashi looked at her and then at the mist, waiting to see what would happen, and he asked, "What was that, Sakura?" Sakura looked at its location and uttered, "A summon." When the fog began to lift and a man appeared in front of the mercs, Sasuke remarked smugly, "Well, that's anticlimactic." The man narrowed his eyes at Sasuke, who was wearing a hockey mask and had a machete protruding from his stomach, as he turned to face the ninja group with a gleeful smile on his face. Believing he had killed the man, he took out the machete and began to approach the mercs. He raised his arm and stabbed the man in the heart with a spear. The man walked toward the next man, who attempted to kill him by stabbing him in the head with a sword after glancing at the merc and slashing his head off in one motion. After driving the machete into his stomach, the man withdrew it and moved on to the next one. When they turned around, the bridge was flooded, and a sign that read, "Welcome to Crystal Lake," stood by the water. The mercs had begun to depart. As the man ruthlessly slaughtered the mercs one after another, everyone turned green. He continued to murder them even after they collaborated and severed his arm and head. He would pick up his arm and begin beating people with it. Swinging it like a mace, the man picked up his head, walked into the water, and left the mutilated bodies of the mercs behind. After the mercs were all dead, as the water subsided, the bridge appeared as if it had never been there. Sasuke said, "Where did you get that summon? I demand you tell me you don't deserve something like that." Sakura ignored it and continued to stare at Naruto. Tenten said, "I see what she meant by being unable to stop them. I am almost afraid to use mine," while the others ignored him. Tsunade responded, "What was those, Sakura, and what do you mean yours, Tenten?" She said, "They are a special summoning we were given by a private sensei. I have one and Tenten has the other. Let's get out of here before we have to kill anyone else." Her hands were trembling. Tenten said, "Stop," as she went to pick Naruto up, lifted his wrist, and wiped some blood on a seal. Soon after, Naruto was covered in seals, which gradually disappeared, and Yamato remarked, "That's new. What was that?" She took both of her empty scrolls, bit her thumb, and rubbed some blood on a seal on each one. After Tenten said, "Wait," all of the weapons on the bridge she had thrown suddenly went up in smoke, and Tenten shut the scrolls. Then she approached, picked up the Hiraishin one, and gazed at it with a sigh. Sakura took his sword, folded it, and carried it on her back. Lee inquired, "How much was he up to?" Tenten pondered and uttered, "I don't know." As Sasuke was fumbling and about to kick Naruto, Jiraiya struck him on the back of the head and stooped to pick him up, saying, "Don't ever try it or I will kill you myself." As they were being led back to Tazuna's house, Kakashi questioned, "Okay, first thing I want to know is how Naruto know the Hiraishin." Everyone started to perspire when Tenten smiled and said, "The what?" According to Jiraiya, "I wonder that myself." With a sigh, Kakashi turned to face Tenten and uttered, "Okay, who gave you those summonings, Tenten and Sakura?" Tenten replied, "Like I told you earlier, Kakashi, family secrets." "Sakura, I order you to tell me," said Kakashi, who had had enough. Sakura replied, "Sorry, only person who knows the source besides those involved is the Hokage himself, and we are not allowed to tell under S-class penalty." Kakashi raised his eyebrows and replied, "Well, can someone tell me why you and Naruto both had to be out of mission for the past week and why his eyes are now the same color as Sakura's?" Tenten replied, "Sorry, family secret, though I will tell you it's equal to what happened on page 36 of Icha Icha Paradise Volume 2. As for the eyes, not a clue." The smile on Kakashi's face faded as he said, "But that still does not mean you can just not be available for missions. You laid beside Naruto naked all week long, no wonder. He was out of chakra and you had blood loss." With his eyes closed and being carried by Jiraiya, Naruto moaned and remarked, "Kakashi, you train an average of 19 hours a day, 7 days a week without stopping for a day off, and tell me how long you last before having to shut down. Besides, what me and my girlfriend do or do not do is our business, not yours." Kakashi responded, "Well, since you're awake, Naruto, mind telling me how you know the Hiraishin?" Jiraiya stopped and put Naruto down. Despite the fact that his legs were not supporting him, Naruto said, "It's amazing what you learn to do when you create 1000 cage bunshin and turn them loose on a library. Train under a weapon maker who has made a legend of himself with his own sealing knowledge and figure out how to create your own seals," says Kakashi. "So you recreated it?" While grinning, Naruto remarked, "That's your decision to believe it or not. I won't confirm nor deny it." "So what's been happening while I was out, and how long was I out?" Naruto sighed. Sakura replied, "I used the summon I got and it killed several more mercs." Naruto replied, "That's good, just remember the restriction on it so they don't kill you." Tenten inquired, "How are you feeling? You did have a sword through you earlier." Naruto's joyful, cherry voice vanished, giving way to an emotionalist one as his eyes went glossy and he said, "It's not the first time, but I'm fine." With a sigh, Tenten gave Naruto the Hiraishin Kuniya she had picked up. He examined it, bit his thumb, and covered it in blood, drawing attention to himself. Then he took the sword Sakura had given him and placed it on the back, saying, "It was a security seal that was added to them when they were made. If anyone tries to mess with the seals on it before my blood is on it, the kunai will explode with the power of 10 exploding tags that are in the middle. I don't want to take the risk that someone could break the seals and discover the secret." With everyone in disbelief, Sasuke uttered the words, "Tell me how to do it." In Naruto's words, "Run real fast." When Naruto appeared behind Sasuke, his sword drawn and held against his neck, he said, "I know you were not fixing to attack me for not giving you what you want, now were you?" Sasuke was furious and had begun to make hand signs for a fire jutsu. "That's enough, Naruto," Kakashi remarked with his sword sheathed. Naruto uttered, "I have no problem stopping Kakashi-sensei, but I am not going to stand by and be attacked from behind." Lee responded, "Naruto, how much weights did you have on?" After pausing to consider his weight, Naruto moaned and said, "No wonder I moved so fast. Here we go, Aegean." He then began to walk while using chakra on his body. After gradually slowing down, Naruto halted his progress and uttered, "There we go, I am currently at 1500 li." "You did it again, Naruto, you forgot to multiply that by 5 since that is the weight per limb," Tenten said, giving her a forehead slap. As everyone's eyes widened, Tsunade turned to face Naruto and remarked, "You have 7,500 pounds on." As if discussing the weather, Naruto responded, "No, of course not, that's just my main weights. I also got 200 pounds on my arms and legs each to make them faster than the rest of my body added to the same activation and release seals." Tsunade slapped her forehead and said, "I just know that he's going to kill himself." Naruto replied, "Now why would I do a thing like that, Granny?" "Show some respect for Tsuade-sama," Tenten said, giving him a headshake. As Naruto put it, "But she is a granny," Tenten paused, glanced at Tsunade, who twitched nervously, and remarked, "Maybe you should call her something else." Naruto took a breath and replied, "Why, we got Ero-sanin and Granny here. I think those names fit them just like how I call the Hokage old man." Kakashi inquired, "So what other skills have you been hiding, Naruto, besides the Hiraishin?" With a smile that made everyone look foolish, Naruto put his finger to his chin and remarked, "I have been learning well. You are my sensei, so you should already know." Sakura inquired, Why are you different, Naruto? I mean, for the last few minutes you have not had your smile on like normal. Unless you were happy, it's like you removed your mask. With the exception of Naruto and Tenten, all of the adults understood what she meant, while the other genin were perplexed. Naruto replied, let's just say I fought myself and won and leave it at that. Sakura replied, I see. Well, I guess then things are going to get interesting. Naruto inquired, how did you get captured if you don't mind me asking, and where was the others? Sakura stated, I was sent to the market to get supplies while Kakashi taught Sasuke tree climbing and Neji and Lee guarded the client. Kakashi thought that if I went without my headband out in view then I could maybe find out some info also. Haku stated, she was attacked by the three ninja back at the bridge and knocked out, though considering the gap as skill levels she did do pretty good to last 2 minutes against all 3 inches, causing everyone to look at him. According to Sakura, you saw that? Haku replied, yes, I was getting stuff to help finish healing Zabuza, and when I saw their headbands I decided to follow them and see if they were passing through or after us. I knew who they were since Zabuza showed me them in the bingo book and knew I had no chance against them, and if I used my bloodline they would have killed me regardless. Everyone knew that Jiraiya was lying when he said, I had forgotten all about you and Zabuza still being here. I figured you would have run off already. Zabuza replied, actually, I was wondering if it would be possible to join the Leaf. Haku and I are both tired of running, and I can give you some information on 2 things you might find interesting. Does the names Orochimaru and Uchiha Itachi pique your interest? As he approached a tree and leaned against it. Sasuke opened his mouth to speak, but Tsunade stopped him in his tracks by administering a paralyzing chakra shot to his nervous system. Jiraiya replied, I can't promise you admittance into the Leaf, but I can promise you safe passage to and from Konoha should you be denied. Zabuza said, fair enough. Orochimaru is the leader of the new Sound Village. He is currently gathering every missing nin that will work for him, but anyone over the rank of Junin has to have a curse seal put on them, which is why I would not work for him. He is planning something big and it's against Konoha. What it is I don't know, but the recruiter I talked to said that when it was over the Leaf would be no more. As for Itachi, I ran into him about a year ago. Him and one of the other remaining members of the 7 Swordsmen Kisame are currently members of a group called Atatsuki. They came to me offering me a chance to join and said they would wait for me to decide and told me to meet them in a year in Rain Country. They said Atatsuki wanted to create their own hidden village and destroy all the others with the tailed beast. Help. They say they have found a way to draw on the demon power and to control them. They said that if I joined I would be allowed access to the 3 tail. They also said they currently have 2 of the 9. Neji replied, then the Uchiha is a fool. The 9 tails has been destroyed. As he sat down, Naruto thought, no, it hasn't. Sakura glanced at him and thought, Naruto. Tenten approached and took a seat next to him as everyone else fell silent in response to Neji's words. Jiraiya replied, well, you confirmed what I have been hearing from my spy network. We have a deal, so I will make sure you can see the Hokage and be allowed to leave if he turns you down. Then Naruto said, so what now? Kakashi responded, we still have to stay until the bridge is finished. After that we will return to Konoha. Tsunade replied, Kakashi, I am taking Tenten and Sakura with me back to Konoha. I want to check Sakura out at a hospital, and also Tenten may have been a help in battle, but she just recently got over major blood loss from what I can tell, so she needs to be back in the village. Jiraiya responded, I am taking the Gaki with me. Kakashi, I need to check him out and see why his eyes changed color, and what was that green chakra. I assume you can finish the mission now with the main threat and the enemy nins dead. Yamato remarked, I suppose I will head back with them and to escort Zabuza and Haku, after Kakashi nodded. As he took out his book, Kakashi remarked, so you just going to leave us hanging? Then Tenten said, which volume is that? According to Kakashi, 18, why? According to Tenten, oh, I was hoping 19 was out. She squealed when Jiraiya produced a copy and gave it to her, and Kakashi questioned, where's mine? Jiraiya replied, you need to pay more attention to your students before you get another free one. With a twitch of her veins, Tsunade said, I need to have a talk with her. Naruto stood up and approached Jiraiya, saying, no, she's fine just the way she is. When Gambunta emerged after Jiraiya bit his thumb and ran through some seals, he said, I need you to take us back to the mainland. Eiji and Gambunta. As Tsunade, Yamada, Zabuza, Haku, Sakura, Tenten, and Naruto leapt up to join Jiraiya, Gambunta said, if you call me out one more time besides a fight or to drink I will sit on you. Jiraiya. Gambunta then leapt away. When they got to the mainland and Gambunta went to heaven, Naruto said, something's wrong with my chakra, it feels different now. I didn't want to say anything back around the others, especially with Kakashi 20 questions and Sasuke being pissed that someone does something that he can't. He's been getting worse every time me and Sakura do something new like tree climbing. water walking, leaf balancing while doing both, as well as her weapon skills increasing thanks to Tenten's help. As he approached, Yamato said, "Flare your chakra." It was flooded with nature chakra back on the bridge. "What is nature chakra, Yamato?" inquired Jiraiya. "We learned that if he sends out his chakra around plants, he can absorb their energy, and that it also neutralizes his other chakra in his body, making them his normal blue," Yamato explained. "It's what we call Naruto's green chakra." When Naruto's chakra flared, it was entirely green, and not red or blue but green. "Did anything happen with it?" inquired Yamato. Zabuza remarked, "If you're all referring to the Kyuubi, Haku and I have already figured it out. Itachi and Kisame told me everything about the target they were given, so I should avoid him if I ever run into him. Naruto has blonde hair, blue eyes, and facial whiskers. Their information will need to be updated." Gazing at Zabuza, Jiraiya remarked, "So they're the ones assigned to get him." "I suppose everyone is aware of Kyuubi," Naruto remarked. "I met the scroll and a person who looked like me the night I received it, but I kept it a secret. He claimed to be my dark thoughts and my doppelganger. He also claimed to have my actual power and that I could only ever obtain it by killing him. However, he also claimed that if I were to lose a battle with him, he would take control of my body and release it in retaliation. He made a play for me by claiming that I was dying. So I fought him on the bridge. When I passed out, I killed him by stabbing myself in the heart after realizing that every time I hurt him, it hurt me back, and vice versa. I did this after reading about doppelgangers. I was just waking up when he transformed into chakra and slammed into me." Tsunade replied, "Naruto, do you still have any of those seeds you had earlier?" Tsunade questioned, "Have you been able to do anything other than just grow flowers before now?" As Naruto took one out of a pocket. Naruto stated, "I can use 4 jutsu, but I can't make the plants do what I want them to, like Yamato said I should be able to do. I want to test my theory, but I believe I know what has happened." Tsunade stated, "Imagine what you want the seed to do as you try to get it to grow." "Sure, but I'm not sure why." Naruto said, "It never worked before," he said, sending out his chakra into the seed, which quickly grew into a long vine. "Whoa, it worked!" Naruto swung the vine, and it circled a tree, tying itself around it. He then sent out a small amount of chakra into it, and it unrolled and returned to him in a loose rope. "That's weird," Naruto remarked. "When I put my chakra into it, it appears to do it on its own the way I want it to." "You have now revealed your true bloodline, Naruto," Tsunade said with a smile. "You should be able to force them to do almost anything, but I'll share with you the one thing I remember my grandfather saying about his lineage. A plant cannot be forced to do anything it does not want to do. Learn what each type of plant will or won't do, because the plant is living as well." Holding up the vine, Naruto nods and asks, "What should I do about this?" Tsunade replied, "Either practice with it some more or destroy it so no one can use it." Naruto nods, throws it into the air, makes 3 hand gestures, and then says, "Winkater." Suddenly, the vine breaks into 10 pieces. According to Jiraiya, "How did you do that?" "Asuma Sensei has been teaching me wind manipulation and a few wind jutsu," Naruto said. Scratching the back of his head, "I adapted that one to be used with a trench knife. I would have worked with the vine, but in order to prevent injuries, I don't want to do it while moving and around other people." As everyone nods, Tsunade inquires, "Sakura, how are you feeling? Did they harm you in any way during your captivity?" Sakura remarked, "In addition, hit me with that stick and tell me that I will be used like any woman should be as soon as I pass out, because I won't be able to defend myself. Other than that, no. From the time I woke up until Naruto and Haku came to my rescue, I remained awake the entire time. I took a short nap after passing out, but I'm still exhausted," she said, turning her head away. "I'm glad I killed those men then," Naruto said, clenching his fist. "How are you both handling that?" inquired Jiraiya. "You two have never killed before, as far as I know." "At first, it brought back a lot of unpleasant memories, but when I heard Sakura scream, I forgot about it and went to help her," Naruto said as he continued to clench and unclench his fist. "Haku killed the man with a senbon to the heart just as I was about to kill him after discovering that he was harming her." Sakura remarked, "I chose to use that summon because I knew I wouldn't be of much assistance to those men and that Naruto and Tazuna would be a liability without him. I was informed that it has unique limitations but doesn't utilize any chakra." Tsunade inquired, "What kind of summons use no chakra and what kind of restrictions?" "Mine has to be used by water and is used to take out a lot of enemies at a distance but can only be used up to a point in life which I won't mention," Sakura said, turning to face Tenten, who nodded. Tenten replied, "Mine is a close-range one that has to be used inside a building and can't be used after the same point as Sakura's." Jiraiya inquired, "Why did you do that, Naruto? The whole damsel in distress bit, and how did you know it would work?" Naruto stated, I think you could say that around my birthday last year, a friend came up with the idea as for me changing into a girl. It was my sexy no jutsu. I made a jutsu. Yamato looked at Zabuza and Haku and remarked, I hate to bring this up but we should be getting back to Konoha. As he turned to walk, Jiraiya said, sure, let's head back, Naruto responded. Why can't you just summon Gambun to Aegean? Jiraiya replied, you heard what he said, if I call him Aegean to be just a taxi then he will sit on me. When Naruto noticed Tenten reading the book Jiraiya had given her, he nodded and walked next to him, asking, so how is it Tenten? Tenten replied, it seems to be good but it won't beat my favorite one though. Really, what's your favorite? Inquired Jiraiya. Tenten remarked, 16, you know the one where the poor man, fleeing a mob, met the red-eyed princess and her traveling companion at the hot springs after his home was destroyed. He appeared to be the deceased king of a different kingdom, whom the princess had a crush on, according to the princess, and her companion with the slit tongue continued to call him the names the mob called him as if it were a badge of honor as it happened. He was the prince of a different kingdom, and his father had sacrificed his life to slay the evil dragon. My favorite is that one. With a pale face, Naruto paused and inquired, Tenten, what did the male character of that story look like and how did it end? Tenten paused to say, he had blonde hair and blue eyes and it ended when the princess told him happy birthday and she would hope he would become king like the man he looked like. Turning to face Jiraiya, Naruto yelled, you knew? He then vanished and reappeared in front of Jiraiya, his sword out, slicing through him before a log replaced him. He tensed and replaced himself as the log sent vines shooting through the area where he had been just a moment before, grabbing onto Jiraiya, who had melted into a pile of mud. When Naruto saw Jiraiya standing in a tree, he slashed the tree branch she was on. Naruto then vanished again, saying, you knew who my father was all the time and you never did a damn thing about it, you bastard. Tenten yelled, Naruto-kun, what's wrong? She was afraid and asked, why are you attacking Jiraiya-sama? When Jiraiya appeared, Naruto would either appear there or be struck by a tree or plant. Tsunade, who had already figured it out, was more impressed with the fight she was witnessing because Naruto was using his bloodline without even trying. She threw some hand seals and swapped a log for Naruto's sword while holding it, and he looked at her and said, you can beat the shit out of him but you are not killing him until I find out why also. What's going on, Tsunade? Sakura inquired. Consider what Tenten's favorite story from the Jiraiya book was about. Tsunade said a street poor boy is being pursued by a group of people. Add in the fact that the woman wished him a happy birthday, which means that if it had been, say, October 10th, the blue-eyed, blonde man would have been Naruto. He was also the son of the king, or should I say Hokage, who perished in battle against Kyuubi or the dragon. Then there's the allusion to the woman with the red eyes and her slit-tongued companion, Yamato stated. Kurenai is the only red-eyed woman in Konoha, and she does have a slit tongue. In fact, Anko, who was Orochimaru the Snake Sanin's apprentice and everyone knows snakes have slit tongues, is her best friend. If you know Anko, you know that when she gets drunk, she finds someone to sleep with. If the princess or Kurenai did have a crush on the Yondaime, as your story suggested, she might have been too inebriated to realize that Naruto wasn't him. Those two get plastered on that day, just like practically everyone else. If I had to speculate, I would say that they gave Naruto a birthday to commemorate. Ouch, that will hurt. Everyone looked back at the ongoing battle. After a tree limb struck Jiraiya in the head, the vines grew up again and encased him, preventing him from moving, and he reappeared where the fight had begun. He was kicked into the air by Naruto, who then turned him into a human pinball by creating 20 cage bunshin that began to bounce off trees as they landed. Is Naruto actually beating a Sanin? Inquired Haku. Tsunade responded, no, Jiraiya was allowing him to express all of his annoyance because he was aware that Naruto was correct. Nobody steps in. No matter what, I'll put an end to it myself if it becomes lethal. A crater was made when Naruto appeared above Jiraiya and kicked him with both feet, sending him to the ground. After landing close to him, Naruto approached him and said, give me one reason why. According to your story, you were aware that I was Dad's son and that he was married because you attended the wedding. You were therefore fully aware of Mom and Sis. Why didn't you assist me? Back when I was younger, I used to hear the old man talk about you and the other Sanins all the time. He enjoyed telling me that you and the Yondaime were like father and son. So why did you abandon me in that hellhole rather than adopting me as your unofficial grandson or something? Since your story described how I was homeless after my house was destroyed, you cannot claim that you were unaware of my life. Yes, it was destroyed in order to kill me. When I opened the door, they placed a bomb inside of it with 200 exploding tags lined up. Fortunately, they were unaware that the elderly man had strengthened the door with steel, preventing the explosion. After that, I was in the hospital for almost a week, and the only time anyone left the room except the elderly man was to change the medication or, perhaps more accurately, the poison in the IV. They could say it was medicine, but you would know what it was when you removed the label and saw that it said acid or had the large bone and crossbones that are used to identify most poisons. Fortunately, I was able to block the IV until they left and let it drain in the bedpan, and they left me one bedpan that they never bothered to check because I didn't deserve to be clean, and then there's the food that they say would help me recover more quickly. A bird ate it and died in 5 seconds after I put it on the window sill to see what would happen. I'll kill you unless you give me a chance to explain why in the world you didn't help me. Why did you do it? Naruto transformed into a female and said in a female voice, so if I looked like this would you have done something? He then released it as he kicked Jiraiya in the stomach, sending him into a tree. Was it because I was a painful reminder of Dad, or was it because you were like almost everyone else in Konoha and see me as the Kyuubi, or maybe it's just that you don't give a shit about anyone unless they have tits and a pussy? When they heard what had happened to him, everyone was in shock. Sakura knew it was bad, but she didn't realize how bad it was. When Jiraiya said, "The council," while Tenten was crying, everyone turned to stare at him. Narrowing his eyes, Naruto questioned, "What was that?" Jiraiya stated, "If you were prohibited from leaving the village until you reached adulthood, that was the only way Sensei could persuade the council to approve the law that no one was allowed to discuss the Kyuubi in you under penalty of death. They made Sensei agree that if you ever left the village before you reached adulthood, they would activate a seal they put on you when you were still a baby, which would burn your brain and blow up your heart. They did this out of fear that if you were taken to another village, they might turn you into a weapon to be used against Konoha. I couldn't take you out of the village because they would kill you, so I sent Sensei a portion of my book sales to help take care of you by paying for your apartment, your utilities, and what little free money you had left over. I also made sure your mother and sister had enough money to live on and paid their taxes. In Konoha, a librarian only earns $6,000 annually. The annual income of your mother and sister was $14,000. I am aware of your difficult life. I wanted to do everything in my power to look after you after reading the report, but I was at a loss. I was terrified that I would kill them all, so I had to leave the village. I also spent a lot of time blocking any external threats to you because I knew Danzo had already planned for you to be abducted so they could kill you. According to Tsunade, you knew this and you did not tell me. What was I supposed to tell you? Asked Jiraiya. It wasn't until a month and a half ago that I realized you were his mother. Are those seals still on me? Inquired Naruto. No, Jiraiya sighed. I took them out the day I saw you and those women in the hot springs. I was in Konoha. For that reason I removed the seal and took you all away using Shushin after you had all passed out. Even though I knew I couldn't keep you safe from Atatsuki, I still started to take you since Orochimaru and Itachi were both members of the group, but Orochimaru left. We have been attempting to obtain information about them for the past 3 years. We only knew that they were pursuing the tailed beast, which implied that they would pursue you. That's why I wanted to kill the Mizukage. Zabuza stated. People lose sight of their humanity when they become so engrossed in politics. As he leaned against the tree, he said, that's also why I killed the entire graduating class that year in Mist. I won't kill you, Jiraiya, but I also don't fully trust you. Naruto sighed. I know this is a clone, but I need to consider it. As the Jiraiya in front of him melted, he turned to face a tree branch behind him, where the real one was. Look behind you and you will see what I mean. Jiraiya turned pale as he saw more than 200 bamboo poles fashioned into spikes, ready to impale him, behind him. Everybody paled as they followed his gaze. How did you do that, Naruto? Inquired Yamato. How did you get your bloodline to function that way? I know you dropped weights to move the way you did. Naruto remarked. It seemed as though the plants and I had united. I felt as though I could see what they were doing, and vice versa. All I had to do was think, trap him, and a wall would appear. The vines would then try to grab him. They seemed to take advantage of my feelings and comply with my requests. Or perhaps I was resisting in the manner they desired. I'm not really able to explain it. Zabuza replied. Kid, you use the Ying double dragon style of sword fighting, don't you? Yeah, Naruto replied. How did you know? If you intend to fight Kisame at any point, you should learn a different style. Zabuza stated. Since the Yang double dragon style is your sister style, he can neutralize all of your sword skills by using it. You will therefore need to improve your jutsu and experience because you cannot possibly acquire 10 years of combat experience before you encounter him. Zabuza said, don't be too hard on yourself, kid. As Naruto sighed and looked down. From what I saw, you could compete with most Junins at the moment. Hell, you might be able to defeat a Kage for a short while, but you don't have any combat experience. Then I am still not strong enough. Naruto sighed. He turned and headed toward Konoha, saying, I have to get Kage level. Sakura, who was looking down, felt someone put an arm around her and looked up to see it was Haku saying, don't be sad, as Tenten approached him, took his hand, and began to walk with him. You also did a great job back in Wave, I would say. You're about Chunin right now, which made her flush. Why are you being nice to me? She inquired. Haku remarked, I'm not sure I want to learn more about you because I like you for some reason. As they began talking, Sakura blushed and said, I would like that. Following the two couples, Yamada and Zabuza remarked, young love. Zabuza replied, God, I hope he does not make me a grandfather. You can come out now, Jiraiya, Tsunade said as they were leaving. He approached her and remarked, the boy's good. The Jiraiya in the tree melted into mud and burst out of the ground. I know, Tsunade said, even if you were just dodging and had no skills, he had your ass dead to rights for the majority of the fight. How bad was it? They both said as they began to follow the others. Jiraiya took a scroll out of his pocket and gave it to her, who opened it and read it. She said, what are we going to do about it? With narrowed eyes. The boy is the main problem. Jiraiya stated he is aware that the Hiraishin will fight like a pack of lions for a lamb. Once the word spreads, we could conceal Sakura. We don't really need to worry about Kushina. As Tsunade put it, why is that? With a snort, Jiraiya questioned, what rank do you think she had? From high Chunin to low Junin, Tsunade said, why? Do you remember a ninja about 17 years ago called the Hungry Piranha? Asked Jiraiya with a smile. I remember hearing about that person, Tsunade said, pausing apparently. Every ninja who encountered him was always soaked and left dead in a bloody mess. I've heard that he was appointed Cage of Whirlpool Village. While waiting for Tsunade to realize, Jiraiya responded, yeah, she was. After walking a short distance, Tsunade paused and said, you don't mean to tell me that she is that ninja? Indeed, she is, Jiraiya remarked. Whirlpool operates in a unique way. The Spiral Shadow, also known as the Rasenkage, is only in power for 10 years. She is descended from a former Cage, just like you. Before her time ran out, she was the Kyudame Rasenkage when she was 17, she left her job at 27, met Minota at 28, and had the children at 29. Even though she is 41 years old, she continues to improve her skills. You had destroyed Whirlpool's hidden village 3 years after she left, so nobody knew much about her. Her grandfather was the Sandame Rasenkage. Apparently, according to Sensei, she told the children that she was just a Junin. Tsunade continued, so those two have 5 cages and 2 Sanins in their blood, plus the fact that Naruto has the Shodime's bloodline as well as the Fox. Remember that Sakura has a potential bloodline with flawless chakra control just like you. Jiraiya said Sensei believes that you are always flawless, regardless of your chakra level. Additionally, he believes she may be descended from the Nidem because her elemental card was completely soaked rather than just slightly damp, so much so that before the card could be deemed damp, he rang out 6 glasses of water. All she needs is a Suiden Jutsu instructor. What has Kakashi been teaching her in Naruto? Tsunade inquired. Apparently Kakashi was ordered to primarily teach the Uchiha and has currently taught them nothing. Jiraiya sighed, keeping a safe distance behind the others. Naruto learned how to use his bloodline from Yamato, which is the secret of Kage Bunshin. It's useful when you can make more than 1,000 at once without getting tired. In less than a week, according to Sensei, he read the entire Konoha library. He also taught Sakura how to balance leaves and climb trees. Kushina also showed Sakura how to water walk, but she had to practice endurance with Naruto before she could do it, so now they can both do it. As you may have heard, Asuma has also been teaching Naruto how to manipulate wind. I'm considering instructing him in the Rasengan. Dustin also taught Naruto Kenjutsu, which is why he is known as the Dragon Slayer. Tsunade stopped and replied, how the hell did Naruto get him to agree to teach him? The Dragon Slayer was at one time considered one of the top 5 swordsmen in the world until he got hurt. He was the second best in the village under Hayate. Jiraiya looked at Tenten and said, that's his daughter and the best weapon user in the village at long range. Apparently she can hit any target up to a mile away with 100% accuracy. Her chakra control is near perfect and her stamina is also good. Her ninjutsu sucks since she has spent most of her time perfecting her skills with weapons. She is also pretty good with the sword but does not like them. Her sensei is Guy along with the Hyuga and the boy in green back there in wave. From what sensei told me, Dustin was also Minota chief maker of the Hiraishin Kuniyas, so I think he's the one who taught it to Naruto. That is interesting. How's her Tiajutsu? Tsunade nodded. Jiraiya sighed. All 3 of them suck at it. Naruto Kenjutsu makes up for his some, but he still has a lot of openings, and from what I saw of his use of Hiraishin, he just recently learned it since he has not had much experience using it, or he would have not made that mistake at the end of the battle on the bridge. I think that's why they were unable to be with their teams this past week. Tsunade smiles and continues, so we have a super powerhouse who could be a Junin with a rare bloodline. a Chunin-level nin with 2 possible bloodline and perhaps the makings of a medic nin, and lastly we have a weapons expert who also has the makings of a medic nin. With a sly smile, Jiraiya remarked, they might be the next Sanins. Don't get me started, Suande said, shaking her head. Tenten asked Naruto as they were strolling side by side, so you want to talk about it? After giving her a quick glance, Naruto said, talk about what? Tenten replied, well, either we can talk about what happened back there or the fact that you basically admitted that you and 2 Junins had sex together. Naruto sighed and replied, I am not ready to talk about what happened back there, but I guess I can tell you about the other, but you can't tell anyone. Sakura approached holding Haku's hand and said, then let me get up there also, I want to hear this. Naruto arched an eyebrow and retorted, you hurt my sister, and I will do to you what I did to the pervert. Sakura said, stop threatening Haku now, spill it, as she punched him in the arm. It happened last year on my birthday, Naruto sighed. Rewind this year, the ABNU mysteriously vanished once more while Naruto was evading a mob. They had located him just outside the ramen stand and had closed off all of the roads and roofs that led to the Hokage Tower and his apartment. This time, they prepared in advance. Soon after, Naruto arrived at the hot springs and noticed that the woman's side door was open. He heard 2 women laughing inside, so he quickly put on a hinge, screwed up the hand seals, and made the sexy no just you. He hurried inside and forcefully shut the door after appearing as a naked woman. Fortunately, the members of the mob were far enough behind to see him run inside but not hinge. What's wrong with you, cutie? You act like you're going to die, a woman's voice said. Fortunately, Naruto was too terrified to react when he turned to see Kurenai and Anko in the water, both naked, holding glasses filled with sake. I'm trying to get away from some people who want to hurt me, can you help me? Naruto said in a female voice. People began hammering on the door as soon as someone shouted, the demon ran into the bathhouse, let's get him, from the other side of the door. Anko replied, jump in the water and hold your breath, kid, I will sit on your shoulders and Kurenai here will cast a genjutsu to make it where they can't see you. Without any delay, Naruto leapt into the water and sucked in as much air as he could. Anko immediately sat down on his shoulders, and Kurenai was still able to use genjutsu despite being intoxicated. Anko yelled, what the hell are you assholes doing, can't you see we are in here? As the door exploded open, allowing a group of roughly 20 men and 3 women to rush in, she then sent out snakes to attack the group, who fled in a hurry. Anko sighed before feeling something between her legs and leaping out of the water as Kurenai stood up and went to shut the door. As Naruto began to slowly float to the top of the water, Anko realized he was drowning and pulled him out. Kurenai then approached and began performing cardiopulmonary resuscitation on him. Kurenai performed them mouth to mouth, while Anko tore off his shirt to perform the stomach portion. When he fainted, the jutsu stopped, so they both knew who he was. Naruto opened his eyes slowly after coughing and spitting out the water a short while later. When Kurenai turned to face him, the alcohol must have taken over because she leaned forward and began kissing him after spotting the Yondaime. When her tongue entered his, Naruto's eyes widened, and he tried to kiss her back while closing his eyes. She undid her friend's pants, pulled them off, and slid on top of him after saying, what the hell, I always wonder what it was like to fuck a demon, I guess you're as close as I'm going to get. When Kurenai broke the kiss, Naruto's eyes widened at the sensation. Oh Yondaime-sama, I can't believe you're back, my childhood crush has returned to me. Kurenai then leaned forward and gave him another kiss. Final flashback. Naruto continued, and then things went from there. By the time they were too tired to stop, it was already close to midnight and they both laid on my arms there on the ground by the hot springs, and the last thing I heard was happy birthday Gaki. When he was discussing it, everyone halted. Sakura was beaten red, and Tenten was gaping. Everyone turned after hearing a perverted giggle and realizing that all of the adults had caught up to them. Tsunade then declared, I'm going to kill them. Naruto replied, no you're not, it was a one-time thing, and though I admit it was not what I wanted at first, I enjoyed it and wound up not ending up in the hospital on my birthday. They saved my life that day and I won't have them hurt because of it, besides they were both drunk. He was staring at her. But they, said Tsunade. Naruto turned around and headed back toward Konoha, saying, drop it, I know what you're thinking, but nothing you could say or do would change the events and I rather leave them alone. Her curiosity overcame her, and she asked, so about what time did you get to the hot springs? According to Naruto, around noon. Why? Tenten passed out as everyone paused to stare at him. As he picked her up bridal style, Naruto questioned, why did she faint? With her mouth agape, Tsunade uttered the words, over 11 hours. Recalling the research, Jiraiya remarked, 11 and a half from kiss to kiss. Sakura said, damn, lucky, ass if I wasn't his sister, as she turned to face Tenten. What's wrong with you all? It's not a big deal, Naruto said. Tsunade responded, Naruto, how much do you know about other people's sex? Says Naruto. Nothing really, why? Kid, most men only go at most 4 hours without a break, she said. Giving her a forehead slap. You are a rare gem in sex if you can please not one but two women for that long as it doesn't get too rough after they get dry, women prefer it longer. With a head scratch, Naruto remarked, well, I guess I'm normal. One bounced, and I simply used my tongue on it. Enko gave me instructions, and once I figured it out, I enjoyed it. After being instructed on how to make my hands and fingers feel better, I also used them. I'm still not sure why this is such a big deal. Whether a brother or not, Sakura's blowout with a nosebleed was too much sexual information. I can't say it, Tsunade said, giving herself another slap. Let's simply leave. As they traveled to Konoha, Haku picked up Sakura and joined the group. Man, Inari remarked, I wish I could have been there. I would like to have seen the golden green flash guy. Everyone was seated at the dinner table back in Wave Country. Why did you call him that? Inquired Kakashi. Inari replied, well, you said how he attacked Gato's men with golden flashes and then he turned green with some weird energy, so I thought just call him the golden green flash. Tazana replied, you know that might not be a bad name for the bridge, the golden green flash bridge named after the kid who showed up and saved all our asses. Neji responded, about that, I was wondering, does Naruto have a bloodline? The response from Kakashi was, not that I know of. Why? Neji replied, oh it nothing, just Korea's. And he reflected, when he was walking earlier and he appeared behind the Uchiha, the ground suddenly sprang grass up and it looked like it was following his control. How is the Dobi so strong? Inquired Sasuke. According to Lee, because his flames of youth burn brightly and he shows hard work pays off. Kakashi looked up and said, I hate to admit it Sasuke, but Lee's right. Naruto has been training every day harder than everyone. The only time he ever stops training is when he's eating. I notice that he uses his Kage Bunshin to practice chakra control while he's busy working on the missions, as well as the fact that he's also been learning swordsmanship and who knows what else he's been learning. Neji responded, I know he works at the Wolf Claw weapon shop an hour every day in the forge before lessons. Tenten told me once. Apparently it's how he is paying for the training her dad is giving him for sword training. Lee stated, don't forget about the weight training. I am surprised he is at the same level as I am on them, and we are both almost to Gai Sensei's level. Sasuke was saying, the Dobi should not be getting extra training, I should be the one. As he recalled his adage, those who follow the rules are trash, but those who abandon their friends are worse than trash. Kakashi had had enough of Sasuke's attitude and realized that he had been a terrible burden to both of his other students. After witnessing Naruto use his sensei jutsu, Sasuke demonstrated his lack of concern for his teammates prior to Naruto's arrival, and things are only getting worse. He stated, Sasuke, I have almost had it with you. You're upset because both him and Sakura are getting better. If you would get off your ass and train with them when they asked you to, you could be at the same level there, so you only have yourself to blame. The reason I have not taught you or them anything else besides teamwork is because you are weaker than they are and have been holding them back. You don't like what I am saying, then you go and find somebody else to teach you, as he returned to his book. Well, you're no longer useful to me anyway, said Sasuke with a sly smile, because I woke up my Sharingan and replicated the jutsu you used on the bridge. He then walked out the door, slamming it behind him. Kakashi looked up and said, Lee, Neji, I can't believe I am saying this, but don't show any of your skills around him. His arrogance is to the point he will get somebody killed. I know you only can use Taijutsu, Lee, and I don't want guys screaming at me that I allowed Sasuke to steal your style, though if he copied the Chidori he might have copied part of your style also, so don't use it for the remainder of the time we're here. You also, Neji, even though he can't see the chakra holes, he can read where they are. Lee asked, so how much longer should we be here? After both nodded. Kakashi replied, I figure by the end of the week. At that time I am going to ask the Hokage to replace Sasuke on my team. Neji inquired, does that mean you're not putting them in the Chunin exams? Kakashi stated, Sakura and Naruto are both Chunin level. They have both been training hard, and I believe Jiraiya will take Naruto as his apprentice and Tsunade may take Sakura. I am going to ask her to. At least she has what it takes to be a good one. If they do as I hope they will, both Naruto and Sakura can enter as individuals in the exams, though it would be harder, but they would most likely team up together and possibly another team, perhaps yours or one of the others. What about Sasuke? Inquired Lee, returning to his book. Kakashi remarked, he stole my only original jutsu and that is all I am giving him. I refuse to teach him anything else. He looked just like Sensei, Kakashi reflected, recalling the events on the bridge. I got the feeling I was lied to, and I don't like being lied to. Upon reaching Konoha, the group of Sanins and their companions went straight to the Hokage. When they got inside, Tsunade had already dispatched Jiraiya to fetch Kushina, and upon seeing that they were all safe, she embraced Naruto, Sakura, and Tenten right away. "So tell me who our two guests are and what happened," the third person said. Sakura stated, "This is Zabuza and Haku. They were hired by Gato to kill the client. Gato double-crossed them and had some mist nins kidnap me. Zabuza and Haku made a deal and told where I was. Naruto and Haku saved me. Naruto then used Hireishin and got back to the bridge to save the others, though he nearly died from a sword wound." Jiraiya then described the events in detail, including the fact that Sakura and Naruto killed each other. Tenten was over that because she had already killed with her team. They then discussed Sasuke's actions and Naruto's green chakra. Tsunade continued, "The deal was Zabuza and Haku want to join the Leaf and have also given us information on Orochimaru and Itachi. Orochimaru is the cage of the Sound Village and he's recruiting missing nin and giving them curse seals. Itachi and Kisame are assigned to capture Naruto for Adatsuki. Naruto fully awakened his bloodline and can now control plants with thought." The third individual replied, "I can allow you to stay in Konoha under watch for 1 year probation, but you will need a sponsor before I can let you join to be a ninja." According to Tsunade, "I have a proposition for everyone here." The third person looked at her and replied, "I am willing to be both Zabuza and Haku's sponsor in return that they agree to be official bodyguards of the Namikaze clan that includes all the lands and secrets of the clan as well as the two heirs which they will agree to help train as well as the hungry piranha. In return they get citizenship as well as a place to stay in the Namikaze mansion as well as $3,000 a month payment for theater guard duties." Naruto questioned, "Who's the hungry piranha?" Zabuza stated, "The former cage of Whirlpool. He was said to have killed nearly 2,000 men during the war. One never thought I would meet him. The Mizukage order all mist nins to kill him since he used a water jutsu that destroyed all of their best jutsu." Almost everyone in the room was shocked when Kushina leaned against the wall and said, "It's a pleasure to meet you and I'm surprised people still remember me being called that." Naruto replied, "Wait, you were a cage? I thought you said you were a Junin." Kushina murmured, "Whirlpool only lets someone be the Rasenkage for 10 years before they step down. After that I went back to being a Junin. It is their way to make sure if a cage is killed or dies they have at least one in training and one who is already trained to be able to take over Konoha. Use the Sanins for the same thing from what I was told. If you want to know the truth, counting me and your father, you both are the kids of 5 cages and 2 Sanins." Still a little stunned by what had transpired earlier, Tenten remarked, "No wonder you have so much strength." "And who will be the clan head of the Namikaze clan?" asked the third. Tsunade looked up and replied, "I will, and I will marry Jiraiya, though the old pervert is not getting any more, so that way he will also be if I am not available, and to also let everyone know that the kids are under our protection to help put the council in its place." Kushina responded, "Exactly are you going to pay them?" Tsunade, "As far as I know you're in department up to your eyes. I made more than enough money from my book sales to settle all of Tsunade's debts and make our clan fairly wealthy," Jiraiya stated. Zabuza inquired, "So what will mine and Haku official place be if we take this offer?" Tsunade replied, "You will be Leaf Shinobi, but your first priority is to the clan in which every member is in this office right now." With a sigh, Naruto remarked, "So does this mean that Sakura and I can finally tell everyone we're related?" Everyone turned to face the third when he said, "Actually, I have a suggestion." "Just kidding," Naruto asked, "Why do I feel like I'm not going to enjoy this? Why do I feel like I'm going to dress drag and do the hula?" "How good are you at using the Hireishin?" Naruto asked the third, grinning. "If you know the secret, it's not a huge deal," Naruto stated. "Why?" The third stated, "Until the exams in 4 months, I want Sakura to be Tsunade's and Naruto to be an apprentice of Jiraiya during that time. I want to complete a few special missions to inform everyone that the Yellow Flash has returned." Kushina replied, "You're not actually planning to put my son out there in the world to make him the biggest target alive?" The third individual replied, "Based on what you all saw of Naruto's skills on this mission, how does he rank overall?" Zabuza stated, "Kenjutsu is good, probably about Chunin, but he needs combat experience. He needs a lot of work on his Taijutsu." Jiraiya said he lacks any sense of style. Tsunade replied, "His speed is Junin level, not including the Hireishin." According to Yamato, his lineage has grown by almost 100%. Since then he can manipulate the wind to some extent. "Then I think my plan would be what we should do." The third person nodded in this manner, "If his name is known worldwide, the council will no longer be able to harm him, and the villagers will be unable to despise him without making all the other countries despise us for the time being. I'm willing to allow Naruto to use his name, but not Sakura because I think she has the Naidem bloodline. I want him to be listed as Tsunade's apprentice until the exams, when she can use it." Sakura exclaimed, "What?" The third replied, "Zabuza, would you mind showing Sakura a simple water jutsu real quick? As he showed her the signs for Mizubunshin, Zabuza replied, sure, though she needs to be near water. After learning the 2 seals by heart, Sakura tried them and exclaimed, Mizubunshin. Suddenly, 2 water clones materialized. The third person said, I was right, and everyone's eyes widened like the Nidame. You are able to extract water from the atmosphere. I believe that I will accept the offer, Zabuza stated as he glanced at Sakura and Haku. He said, I think my adobe son here has a chance to be happy, and it just got a lot more interesting. With a sigh, Naruto remarked, but what about my training and my girlfriend? Easy, the third said, I'll give you a scroll containing jutsu, and Jiraiya will teach you in between missions because of the mission you completed. I am also giving you an A-rank Pei Tenten as a member of the Guy's team, but if Suande allows it, she can train with her. Haku inquired, so if we are ninja of this village, what rank will we be? The third replied, I believe Zabuza will be granted special Junin and you will unfortunately be a genin because you have never been an actual ninja, but I will put you with Sakura and Naruto when he returns as a team. What about the bastard Sasuke? Inquired Naruto. He will stay with Kakashi and I will put him with another team, the third said with a sigh. As he glanced at Jiraiya, Naruto nodded and asked, so how long do I have before I have to leave with the pervert? Why can't you call me Grandpa? Inquired Jiraiya. Not after you put me in your book. Naruto remarked, I won't stop the bamboo the next time if I discover that you did it again or added tension to them. What are you two talking about? Inquired the third. Tenten was saying, Jiraiya put Naruto-kun in one of his books with 2 Junins of this village and Naruto kicked his ass. You put Minota and me in your book first, and now you put my, Kushina said. Cracking her knuckles she glanced at Naruto and said, wait, what 2 Junins? As Team 8 entered the office through the open door, Kurenai held up the cage containing the cat and said, I apologize for disturbing Hokage-sama, but we caught Tora and I thought we should deliver her before Kiba killed her. When Sakura noticed 2 Sanins and an A-rank missing nin in the office, she turned pale and turned her head away from Kurenai, who arched an eyebrow and remarked, I think this was a bad time to be here. We will be on our way, Hokage-sama. She quickly escorted her student out. Don't tell me that she was one of them, Kushina said after observing Sakura's reaction. Mom, stop it, Naruto said. Will you now respond to my query? When are we heading out? Tomorrow at sunrise, said the third with a nod. Naruto said, then, may I get paid? Before I go, I need to get a few things. Naruto said, Tension, I got a few things I need to get, if you don't mind. Can I pick you up around 5 this evening to have dinner? After the third nods and hands him a pay voucher. As Tenten put it, sure, Naruto-kun, Sakura remarked, okay, this is freaking me out. As Naruto grinned and walked out of the office, he has changed ever since he combined with his other personality. Sighing, the third remarked, so the seal Inoichi put on him broke, huh? Sakura gives a nod. Tenten replied, if there's nothing else you need us for, I need to talk to Sakura about something. Sure, go ahead, the third said, nodding. There is nothing else that I can think of that I need you for. Sakura gives Haku one final glance before the 2 girls nod and depart. After they left, the third said, Yamato, could you please take Haku and Zabuza down to registration and set them up, if that's okay? List all of their abilities as clan secrets and note that they are sponsored by the Namikaze clan. They will soon be joined by the others. You will then take the remainder of the week off before going back to your regular responsibilities. After saying, thank you Hokage-sama, Yamato departed with Haku and Zabuza. The third said, what the hell were you all doing discussing everything in front of 2 potential enemies? After they had left, are you aware of the potential consequences if they were adversaries? They were already aware of the Kyuubi thanks to Itachi, and Naruto's use of his father's jutsu caused everyone to look twice. Jiraiya stated there is no longer any room for doubt. Should Kakashi ask you, I wouldn't be shocked. So what's the real reason you want to get Naruto and Sakura out in the open like that and don't say the council? Kushina asked after the third person sighed. The third said, this arrived today, and gave them one of the scrolls he had taken out of a stack. Jiraiya replied, the Hidden Sound Village wishes to participate in the Chunin exams and the Fire Lord already approved it. What better time to attack? Said the third. Our security will be so overburdened that there won't be anything we can do to effectively repel an invading force without suffering some losses. Jiraiya replied, so you are wanting to use Naruto and Sakura to level the field, huh? The third responded, no, unless Orochimaru had a secret weapon or another reason, he wouldn't send a team here so openly. If we discover that he is the Kage in the village, I assume he will have spies there to warn him. If I can get Sakura and Naruto ready for battle before then, I hope that Naruto will be a source of inspiration for our nins, just like his father was, and that Sakura's lack of recognition will allow her to take precedence over the other characters. All skills on both clan secrets should be labeled so that no one can find out what they know in an attempt to figure it out. I want the rumor mill to run wild, no research on this trip. Jiraiya, I want you to teach him every tactic you know for both offense and defense. Teach him how to counter the 5-star seal as well. Orochimaru will attempt to turn off the Kyuubi if he shows up. Tsunade, teach it to Sakura as well. How long have you been planning this? Inquired Kushina. The third said, I've known for more than a week that Naruto should be able to perform the Hiraishin, so I had planned on him showing up for the missions I got for him, but I need to make sure we can tip the scales as much as possible given the threat posed by Orochimaru, and the others have been attempting to figure out how to get him out in the open where he can't be touched since last week. All right, but during the exams, everyone will know the truth about our family, and if they don't like it, we're going to be gone. Tsunade stated. Kushina never formally became more than a civilian, according to Jiraiya, and since we are apprentices, we can take the children, and I'll figure out something about the girl because she seems to be devoted to Naruto. With Haku and Zabuza, as Zabuza gazed down at the scarred face of Iruka, a part-time academy teacher at the Hokage Tower, he said, You heard me correctly. According to Iruka, but Naruto's name is not Namikaze. Actually, Iruka, it is, Yamato remarked. He is one of the sponsors of these two and the son of the Yondaime. It turns out that his family is more supportive than anyone had anticipated. As Iruka realized why Naruto was selected, he trailed off, saying, So that's why. Haku replied, Is that all the info you need on us? Iruka responded, One more question, do either of you have a bloodline? Zabuza nodded and said, Yes, I do. As Haku glanced at him, I am capable of controlling ice. Yamato replied, Iruka, all information on them besides name and skill level is to be listed as Namikaze clan secrets. Very well, Iruka said with a nod. I think that's all. Dustin grinned as Sakura and Tenten entered the Wolfclaw weapons store, and Tenten said, Dad, I need to talk to Sakura upstairs. Okay. Girly things. Oh, and I won't be here until 5 if Naruto shows up. All right, Dustin said. If he shows up, I'll let him know. How did the mission go? Same old, Tenten said. Same old, they said as they ascended the stairs. Sakura asked, So what is it you wanted to talk to me about? As they arrived at the Tenten room. Tenten let out a sigh. Look, I did not want to mention it earlier, but is there anything Naruto not telling me that you can think of? Perplexed, Sakura uttered, Not that I know of. Why? Tenten replied, Well, it's just that, when I found out about him and those two women, it made me afraid that he might be with other girls. No, that is one thing I can tell you for sure, Sakura said with a laugh. When it comes to girls, my brother has always been a complete moron. Consider his remarks regarding that. At first, he didn't want that. Next, consider who they were. Even I have heard of Kurenai and Anko, the snake mistress, also known as the sadistic bitch, but I was astounded by that one. So you don't think he's cheating on me or even thinking of getting rid of me? Tenten sighed. No, Tenten, Sakura said, shaking her head. Haku told me that you were the name, he said, not the teams, but you. Once I was safe and before he flashed away, he is concerned about you more than the crush he had on me prior to our discovery that we were related. You are aware, though, that he will need to take another wife once people learn about his ancestry. Tenten nods, saying, I know, and he and I both detest that, but I'm okay with it if he will see me the way I do and doesn't try to get rid of me. I suppose I'm just afraid. Pointing to a floor air vent, he said, I mean, I know we have been together almost every day for the last couple of months and I care for him, and now that he is having to leave I just listen. Naruto had just entered downstairs and said, How's it going, Dustin Sensei? Ah, Naruto, if you're looking for Tenten, she's not here right now, Dustin said with a smile. Claimed that she needed to finish something before 5 o'clock. That's okay, said Naruto. In fact, I came to discuss something with you. Tenten glanced up at Sakura in the Tenten room and muttered, What does he want to talk to my dad about? Sakura listened while shrugging her shoulders. So, what can I help you with? Asked Dustin. Naruto sighed and replied, Well, you see, I got to leave the village tomorrow and I am not going to be back until right before the exams. Really, that's too bad, Dustin said. Did you stop by to tell me that or something? No, it's about Tenten, Naruto said. You see, I really care about her. The problem is that I wanted to ask her a question, but I read in a book that you should first ask the girl's father. Tenten was wide-eyed and gaping, and Sakura covered her mouth as they listened upstairs. And what is that? Asked Dustin. Despite his internal laughter, he said in a firm voice, You know I love my daughter with all my heart and I would kill anyone who hurt her. Then he said, Well, you see, since me and Tenten haven't been really apart more than 3 days when she had that mission out of town since we first started seeing each other, and I want her to know I care for her and will be back, so I want to show her how much I love her and ask her to marry me. He fidgeted with his foot. Sakura and Tenten both squealed silently as they heard what had happened upstairs. Dustin responded, "So you want to ask my daughter to marry you, huh? If she agreed, when would it be?" "Well, if that's what you're worried about, then not today," Naruto said. "I want to wait until we both make chunin so that we can have more money and not have as much trouble as we do now, because I know how difficult it is to survive on your own, and I know we would need to save up some money in addition to making sure we can support each other. I don't want my obligations to burden the rest of my family." Dustin remarked, "It looks like you gave it a lot of thought. Have you yet to get her a ring?" Naruto replied, I have not bought one, but I did make one." "Really?" Dustin said. "Let me see it." Naruto took a ring out of his pocket and gave it to Dustin, who chuckled and remarked, "I see. You put a Hiraishin seal on it, huh?" Naruto nods and continues, "Yeah, when we were on the mission Tenten had to use the kunia I gave her, and I feared what would happen if she did not have it, so I thought if she agreed, then that way if she ever needs me I can be there in a flash by channeling chakra into it." Dustin inquired, "When did you have time to make it and where did you get the jewel?" "I made it from a kunia that I melted about 2 weeks ago, and I just finished adding the seal a little while ago after I got back," Naruto explained. "I tested it, and it functions. Regarding the gem, it originated from an earring I discovered on the ground one day, although it's not much. The elderly man informed me that it was now mine after I gave it to him, and he returned it to me a month later because no one had claimed it and declared it to be a diamond. I held onto it for years because, according to him, it was extremely rare and valuable." According to Dustin, "So why did you just not buy a ring, huh?" "Well, I considered it, but I didn't want to go through that because of the way most of the villagers are, and I also felt that she would love it more if she knew I made it," Naruto said. "Does that imply that I can ask her?" "Yes, you can ask her," Dustin said, "but have you considered how you're going to do it? You seem anxious, after all." With a sigh, Naruto stated, I hope she still feels the same way about me as she did before. A lot of things happened recently and she learned a lot about my past that no one knew, particularly since I'm departing at sunrise. I practiced the lines for days to find the right thing to say when I asked her mother to marry me," Dustin said with a smile. "Since she's not here, why don't you practice speaking from the heart? I've learned that's the best approach. That way, when you do ask her, you'll be prepared." Naruto replied, "That's a great idea. How do I do it exactly?" "Usually guys get down on one knee, hold up the ring, and tell the girl why they love them," Dustin said, giving him a forehead slap. Dustin said, "Close your eyes, kid, it's more calming that way. Just speak from your heart." Naruto nodded, dropped to one knee, and held up the ring. Dustin replaced himself with Tenten, who was above him in the room above. After Naruto closed his eyes and made a hand sign, he knew they were over the air vent and that it worked both ways, so he had heard what she had said to Sakura. "Tenten, we have only been together for a couple of months, but to me it feels like my entire life," Naruto said with his eyes closed. Tenten blinked and saw Naruto on one knee, wondering how she got there. "I was always lonely before you entered my life, but ever since I found you, or you found me, it doesn't matter. I've only felt lonely when I'm not with you. Your voice, your laugh, your smile, your taste, and your smell. Tenten, I implore you to marry me if you feel the emotions I thought I would never experience." With her hand to her heart, Tenten leaned forward to kiss him, causing his eyes to widen. When she withdrew, she grinned and said, "Yes, I would love nothing more than to be your wife." A squeal from the stairs caused them to turn to face Sakura and Dustin, who grinned. "Congratulations, you too," Sakura said. She grinned and said, "I can't believe you are engaged now." Gazing at Dustin, Naruto remarked, "You told me she was not here." "So what?" said Dustin. "I assumed you required assistance. What if I was lying? I'm your prospective father-in-law and her father." He smiled and said, "It's my job to make your life hell." As Naruto opened his mouth to speak, Tenten kissed him once more, took the ring, and put it on. She then broke the kiss, examined it, and inquired, "How did you know my ring size?" "Recall that day when you demonstrated to me how to channel chakra into my finger to test metal strength and you stabbed yourself into the log, causing 4 holes in it," Naruto remarked. "I created a metal model of your ring finger, released it, and used it as the ring's cast. I see all those hours of working in the forge paid off." Dustin remarked, "Let me tell you something. Since you must depart in the morning, why don't you all leave and spend the day together?" After the 3 of them departed, Sakura remarked, "So what are you going to do now?" Tenten replied, "Well, I think we should tell your mom and grandparents so that way they know." Naruto replied, "But I thought you would want to spend the day with me alone since I was leaving." "I do, but you also need to spend time with your family," Tenten said. "Naruto-kun, we have our entire lives ahead of us, so let's move on." The three of them headed toward Sakura's house after Naruto nodded. They received the same looks from everyone, but they chose to ignore it until one man remarked, "What the devil is doing with those two girls?" I bet he did, but he was silenced when a vine wrapped itself around his mouth and emerged from the wooden telephone pole behind him. When they were sufficiently far away, Sakura asked, "What did you do that for, Naruto?" as the three children exchanged glances and left. "I didn't," said Naruto. "I wished he would stop talking, and that's exactly what happened." "Perhaps you should guard your thoughts, Naruto," Tenten said. "You must be careful not to accidentally kill someone if the plants are able to sense your thoughts and respond accordingly." When they got to Sakura's house, Naruto nodded when she entered. She noticed a black-haired woman she had never met before packing her belongings. "Who are you and what are you doing in my home?" Sakura asked. "You must be Sakura," Shizune remarked. "I'm Shizune, Tsunade's helper at your new home. She, Jiraiya-sama, and Kushina-san are all unpacking you and Naruto-kun are relocating to your family's estates." Tenten replied, "Hey Naruto, think a clone army would be of use here." Tenten took out some extra scrolls she always carried, and Naruto smirked and made 50 cage bunchins in about 2 hours. They had everything sealed in the scrolls, just as Kushina returned, gaping, and asking, "How did you get done so fast and where is everything?" Kushina nodded and said, "Well, I suppose we can go then," as Tenten held up some scrolls. "Come with me." Tenten took Naruto and headed for his place, saying, "Actually, me and my fiancé are going to get his stuff." After nodding and taking a few steps, Kushina stops and asks, "Did I hear incorrectly, or did she say faints?" "Yeah mom, Naruto just asked her to marry him a little while ago," Sakura said with a smile. "God, I don't want to be a grandma yet," Kushina sighed. Sakura replied, "Relax, they're waiting until they both make chunin." Unaware that she was holding her breath, Kushina exhaled and said, "Well, let's go and tell the others." After arriving at his apartment, Tenten and Naruto entered. They began to seal his belongings, or at least the items he intended to take with him, which turned out to be quite few. Tenten asked, "So what do you want to do now?" After they were done. "How about we go watch the sunset together," said Naruto. Tenten nods, and the two of them proceed to the monument of Hokage. Tenten remarked, "I'm going to miss you," as they sat there and watched the sunset. While he was fidgeting, Naruto nodded and remarked, "I'm going to think of you every second I'm gone. Are you sure? I mean, about being my wife? How many times have I ever done something to make you doubt me?" Tenten asked, grabbing his hands. With a pause, Naruto uttered the words, 47 times. After giving him a headshake and blinking, Tenten said, "I mean about our relationship, not working or training." "Never," said Naruto. "Then why do you doubt me now?" Tenten asked. "Because now I am what the people always said I was, a killer," Naruto said, casting a downward glance. Tenten's eyes softened and said, "Naruto, did you notice all the dead merc on the bridge when you arrived? I killed over 50 already, and I don't see myself as a murderer. I see myself as a hero. If those men would have lived, they would have went and hurt or killed who knows how many more men, women, and children. You killed people who had not only kidnapped your sister but also men that would probably have killed me and my team and yours. You saved all of our lives. I know it's hard with the first kill, but you sometimes have to do it." Naruto replied, "Do you know the history of the Hiraishin, Tenten?" Tenten let out a sigh. "That's what you're worried about. You're afraid that now that you killed and know the jutsu your father used to kill 1,000 Iwa nins during the war, you're going to have to do the same thing, and you're afraid what people will say or see you as." Naruto gazed at her and uttered, "Not people, you." Tenten went on to say, "Naruto-kun, I don't care if you never kill or you kill a million people. I will always love you. I know you're going to have to kill, and odds are you will do it while away. As long as you don't kill just for fun and stay the same person you were, I will love you. Promise me that if it comes down to you coming back to me or you killing, that you will come back to me." With a hug, Naruto reassured her, saying, "I promise." As they parted ways, Tenten grinned, shed a tear, and remarked, "I'm glad. Looks like we missed the sunset." With a nod, Naruto utters, "I meant every word I said earlier." Tenten replied, "I know, just promise me that when you find someone else to marry you also, that you do it for the right reasons." Naruto replied, "I promise I will do all I can to fulfill that one, but I fear what the future brings." "So do I, but as long as we're together, nothing can stop us," Tenten said as he got to his feet. After giving her a kiss, Naruto and Tenten headed toward the town, where Tenten paused and inquired, "Naruto-kun, where is your new home at?" Naruto paused, scratched his head, and uttered the words, "To be honest, I'm not sure." "Come on, you can stay at my place since we packed yours," Tenten said, giving her a forehead slap. She said, "You can sleep on the fold-up bed. Naruto nodded as he was about to respond. Both of them blushed when they returned to the shop and told her father what had happened. He laughed and advised them to wear protective gear. Following a quiet dinner and getting ready for bed, they both dozed off peacefully. After waking up in the middle of the night and giving Naruto a quick glance, Tenten left the room to attend to an urgent matter. She was leaving the sealing room about an hour later when Naruto approached and inquired, "What's wrong, Tenten?" Tenten took his hand and led him back to her room, saying, "Nothing, let's go back to bed." She refused to let go of him and dragged him onto her bed while she rested on his shoulder and fell back asleep. When Naruto woke up the following morning and attempted to move, Tenten clung to him as if he were her only hope of survival. She looked at him and said, "It's time, huh?" as his movement roused her. Naruto nodded while wearing a dejected expression, and they both showered before getting ready for the day. Tenten grabbed what she had worked on the night before and walked to the bathroom while Naruto was taking a shower. When she heard that the shower's water was still running, she picked up the lock, took his clothes, placed a fresh set on the counter, and shut the door. As he turned the corner, Dustin said, "What are you doing, dear?" "I gave Naruto-kun a parting gift." Tenten said, "I'll use my mission funds to cover the cost." "What is it?" Dustin asked. Nodding, Tenten returned to her room and packed his clothes in a scroll, saying, "Just some new cloths." After drying off from the shower, Naruto saw that his clothes had been changed and that there was a note on top of them. He read the note. "Greetings, Naruto-kun, this is my farewell gift to you, which I hope you enjoy. Each item has 3 seals. A cleaning seal, a repair seal, and an alteration seal, which will enable you to grow without having to buy new clothes if you want to prove to the world that you are the son of the Yondaime. Love, your future spouse, Tenshin." Naruto grinned broadly as he glanced at the clothing. When Naruto entered the store, Tenten was seated in the front with her father behind the counter. Tenten was flushed, and Dustin was gaping and wide-eyed. A pair of black pants with built-in holsters and an additional one for the Hiraishin kuniyas were Naruto's outfit. A green ninja vest filled with storage scrolls, including 2 for the Hiraishin, and a form-fitting blue shirt with integrated body armor. The Namikaze second flash kanji and a white cloak with green flames across the bottom were placed on top of that. Additionally, it featured Naruto's sword hoops on the back, allowing him to continue using his style, and the kanji were positioned so the sword wouldn't block them like Kakashi. The finisher on Naruto's face wore a partial mask, but his was green with blue accents. "Is that you, Naruto?" asks Dustin. "Yeah," Naruto replied, "so how'd I look?" She walked over, pulled down Tenten's face mask, and gasped, "I got the funny feeling you're going to get fangirls. You look so good, I want to kiss you." "What's wrong?" Naruto asked. Blinking, Tenten took out a display mirror and showed him, saying, "Your whiskers. They're thinner than they were." Naruto replied, "Maybe it has something to do with the green chakra." Dustin replied, "I hate to do it, but you said you needed to leave at sunrise and you're already late." After Naruto nods and takes Tenten's hand, they exit the store, with Dustin whispering, "Be careful, kid, if not for yourself then for her." A number of people were astounded to see the Yondaime ghost moving through the village as Naruto and Tenten made their way through town. As they got closer to the gate, they both chose to ignore them. Along with the third person who had come to bid them farewell, they noticed the rest of the Naruto family standing there, all of them pale Sakura-studded. "Is that you, Naruto?" "Yeah, you all look like you saw a ghost," Naruto said. "You look almost exactly like your father," Kushina remarked. Says Tenten. "Told you that you needed to dress the part." Kushina inquired. "Why did you not come to our new place last night, Naruto? We were going to throw you both a party to celebrate." "Nobody told us where it was, and since we had already packed Naruto's place, I let him stay at mine," Tenten said, rubbing her head. Tenten blushed when Kushina looked at her and said, "I can still use the summon." Kushina nodded, which caused Sakura and everyone else to stare at her with amusement. "Well, there's no backing out now, is there, Naruto?" the third person said. "No, and I'm glad," Naruto replied. "I'm going to miss you, Naruto," Sakura said. After giving her a hug, Naruto said, "Take care of yourself, sis, and look after Tenshin for me." Sakura nods, and Naruto releases his grip. Kushina said, "Screw it," and gave Naruto a hug in return. "Please be careful, I don't want to lose you, Aegean," she said. "You're not, I have a promise to fulfill," Naruto remarked. Tsunade approached her and pulled out the necklace. She said, "Naruto, this necklace belonged to the Shodem Hokage. He gave it to me and I gave it to my younger brother who died during the war." I then gave it to my fiancé who died. Both dreamed about being Hokage like you do. I always thought that this necklace was cursed after that, but I want to take one more chance. This necklace is supposed to not only be able to amplify your bloodline but also to help control demons, so I believe it was just waiting for you. Please prove me right just this once. When Naruto put on the necklace, he was briefly covered in green chakra once more before it returned. When Naruto looked at the necklace, he saw that it contained chakra that was moving, shocking everyone by revealing a burning leaf inside. As Tsunade put it, I've never seen that happen before. It's almost like it was made for him, the third person said. Thanks, Granny, Naruto said, but his headband was knocked off and he was kissed on the forehead. The third character said, Naruto, I have already gave Jiraiya your first 5 missions. Each mission will be carried out by you and Jiraiya will only help if it gets out of hand. This is both training you but also to see how good you really are and what you can do. As he left the village, Jiraiya said, come on kid, we got a lot of ground to cover. Naruto nodded. Before he started to follow Jiraiya, Naruto turned and gave Tenten one final kiss. Tsunade asked, does Tenten have any mission yet? As everyone stood there until they left. According to the third, not until her teammates return. I want both of you to go home and change and meet me at the academy in 1 hour for training, Tsunade said, taking 2 scrolls out of a pocket and giving one to Sakura and the other to Tenten. The third person asked, what are you doing? While the other 2 nod and leap away in 2 different directions. Tsunade replied, I gave Iruka the day off at the academy as I need his class for some special training. The third individual replied, very well, I hope you know what you're doing and could you tell me ahead of time next time? Kushina asked, what are you up to? After she nodded. Tsunade replied, oh, just a lesson I learned a few years back about kids, sweets, and dodging. Kushina replied, never mind, I won't ask. I am going to go and start my own training. I trust you won't kill them. With her finger to her chin, Tsunade uttered the words, kill, no maim maybe. Tsunade went to the academy after they both laughed. So what's the first mission? Inquired Naruto, who was pursuing Jiraiya. After Jiraiya threw him a scroll, Naruto opened it, began reading, and spoke. So we got a group of bandits that are terrorizing a village a half day away from Konoha. They want us to capture them or kill them. C rank doesn't sound too hard. Naruto stopped and looked around as Jiraiya melted into a pile of mud and said, good, it's here now. CYA. He then glanced at the town's location, saw the accompanying map, and started in the direction of the village. When they returned to Konoha, Sakura and Tenten both entered the academy with some weights and a white painting outfit. Tsunade asked, so do you all understand the rules? As she stood in front of roughly 30 children. Yes, they all replied while standing. Konohamaru uttered the words, but boss will kill me for hurting them. Don't worry, Naruto won't touch you, trust me, Tsunade said. What's going on, Tsunade? Sakura inquired. Tsunade replied, simple, we got a class of 30 kids here. They have already divided up into 3 teams of 10. We have the orange team, the red team, and the blue team. When I say go, they're all going to grab one of these plastic baseball bats that are covered in paint for their team and divide into 2 teams for each color and try and hit you as many times as they can. The team that gets the most hits on both of you at the end of the day will get free ice cream. Your job is to dodge as much as possible and not get hit. You are not allowed to fight back or jump in trees or leave this field. This will help you learn to dodge, speed, endurance, as well as taking hits on your body. The only thing they can't hit is your head, and they won't stop hitting you until I tell them to, because an enemy won't either. But, Tenten said, screaming. Tsunade said, begin. Tenten and Sakura went pale as the 30 children split up, snatched up their bats, and began attacking them. The bandits were already present in the village when Naruto arrived. Since the villagers only had pitchforks and the bandits all had swords and axes, he could tell they were the bandits. With narrowed eyes, Naruto conjured up 50 cage bunchins and launched them in the direction of the bandits. The bandits began to flee when they noticed the horde of ninja approaching them. However, the bandit leader intervened, used some hand signals, and uttered the words, Earth style. Earth tidal wave. At that moment, a wall of earth appeared and began to move quickly in the direction of the ninja group. From his tree, Naruto scowled as he saw his cage bunchins destroyed. He believed he could kick the men in a one-on-one battle, but this man simply destroyed all of his cage bunchin in a single blow. The ruler stated, fan out and search for him. The guy who used those cage bunchins is around here somewhere. There may be more. I want his head and you. Pointing to the village's mayor. I will have my men do as they please to your family while you are forced to watch it happen, and then I will kill you for bringing Konoha ninja here. Naruto's eyes narrowed. Someone doing that immediately after his sister almost experienced it was one thing he could not stand. He gritted his teeth and recalled what Tenten had said as a picture of Sakura and Tenten suddenly appeared in his mind. Rewind. Tenten eyes softened and said, Naruto, did you notice all the dead merc on the bridge when you arrived? I killed over 50 already, and I don't see myself as a murderer, I see myself as a hero. If those men would have lived, they would have went and hurt or killed who knows how many more men, women, and children. You killed people who had not only kidnapped your sister but also men that would probably have killed me and my team and yours. You saved all of our lives. I know it's hard with the first kill, but you sometimes have to do it. The end of the flashback. Naruto replied, to terrorize a village is one thing, but I will not let you or your men do that to any woman or children. He leapt to the ground, slowly drew his sword, and began to approach the men making their way to the woods from which the Kage Bunshin had come. Jiraiya scowled as she waited to see what would happen while hiding in a tree. Reaching for his hand, Naruto struck his weights release seal before vanishing from the bandits' line of sight as Naruto sliced the men, severing one arm and slitting the sides of two others. 3 screamed and blood sprayed into the air. Naruto threw some acorns on the ground in the center of the group before charging straight down the middle of the men and spinning around. You will not hurt anyone anymore, he said in a chilly voice as he emerged behind the men, sending shivers down everyone's spine, including Jiraiya, who had witnessed his actions. He was interrupted when a tree limb sprang out of the ground and pierced his neck. The men turned, laughed, and exclaimed, what an idea. After using a series of hand signals, Naruto uttered the words, wood style, birth of the dense forest. The seeds exploded, and the trees that surrounded the men began to rise out of the ground, creating a cage. They screamed as they attempted to escape, but the branches entangled themselves around them, preventing them from moving freely within the cage. Naruto was on the verge of killing that man when a massive ball of earth flew at him, forcing him to dodge. The leader had slipped his mind. The commander replied, I must say, boy, I am surprised you took out my men so easily, but they were only grunts and I can always get more. Not if you're dead, Naruto said, glancing at him. Jiraiya looked at him and said, kid, be careful and don't become a person who enjoys killing, or I may have to stop you before you do something you would regret. This missing Iwanin is a chunin. Let's see what you can do. The leader replied, you actually think you can kill me? I admit that trick with Kage Bunshin as well as the wood ability is a surprise, and I love how you're trying to impersonate the yellow flash with the look, but you are nowhere near his level. You're not even worthy of the dirt on his feet, so I will just end you here and now before you think you can do something even more stupid than impersonate a Hokage. Besides, you should be out of chakras soon. Naruto laughed and replied, impersonate, huh? If that's what you think I am doing, then you are dead wrong. I don't impersonate my family. I am learning everything they can do and take it to the next level. You seem to honor my father so much, I think I will give you a sample of why you have feared him. The leader's eyes narrowed. Knowing how Kage Bunshin operated, he was certain that this child should be on the ground because he was abnormal and did not even seem tired. His thoughts were interrupted when Naruto flicked his wrist to wipe the blood from his sword and then sheathed it. The leader began to back away after Naruto used a single kunai to identify him. Smirking, Naruto said, gotcha. When a swarm of vines emerged from the ground and seized the man's hands and feet, tying him to the ground, the leader blinked and opened his mouth to speak. He attempted to make a replacement with his fingers, but the vines prevented him from making hand signs. Since I see you have a slash through your headband, that means you're a missing nin. I think I should send you back to Konoha for investigation, Naruto said, approaching the man and grasping the kunai at his neck. Thank you, sir. I'm George, the leader of this village, and I want to say thank you from my entire village for capturing these men and saving our village, said the smiling village mayor. I was just doing the mission that you paid for. I'm Naruto Namikaze, Naruto said, nodding. Namikaze, then you the son of the yellow flash? The Iwanin's eyes widened, and they continued to struggle to stand up. Ignoring him, Naruto slapped the nin on the back of the neck, knocking him unconscious, and said, if you need anything else, please let us know. When Jiraiya showed up, she said, well done, kid. We need to take these men away, Naruto stated. Invoking a 6-foot-tall toad with 2 swords on his back, Jiraiya bit his thumb and performed a series of hand signals before saying, Naruto, this is Gamakuden. He's a warrior toad. Gamakuden, I need you to watch these men until ABNU arrive to take them away. After the toad gave a nod, Jiraiya threw Naruto another scroll before vanishing amid a flurry of foliage. When Naruto moaned, he remarked, I am really starting to hate him. The mayor concluded by saying, I will be sure to tell everyone about how Konoha saved our village, and I hope to see you Aegean someday. Naruto was it. Yeah, Naruto Namikaze, Naruto said, nodding. I suppose I had better leave, and vanished from sight because the man was unable to follow him. Okay. I got something I want you to work on while you travel, Jiraiya said as Naruto stopped a short distance from the village, put his weights back on, and prepared to leave. I will instruct you in the Rasengan. There are 3 steps. He held up a water balloon, which rippled before bursting, saying, the first step is you must bust a water balloon like this. There are about 200 balloons in this scroll already filled with water, he said, taking out a scroll and passing it to Naruto. I want you to pop them and only use chakra. I will give you the next section only after you have successfully used all 200 chakras. Good luck, he said, rising in a cloud of smoke. That's 3 times he's left me alone in 3 different ways, Naruto said. I'm going to harm him. Escort, he said after removing the mission scroll and opening it. Who in the hell would hire a B-rank ninja as an escort? It states that it is located roughly 20 miles west of here in a town called Kanku City. Then he sighed, looked at the sun, and realized it was barely noon. He picked up a scroll that Tenten had made for him from his pocket, opened it, put some unsealed rice balls inside, and grinned as he ate them before heading out on his next mission. When it happened, Naruto had been traveling for about 4 hours. He landed on a tree branch that he was jumping to when it broke, and he began to fall toward the ground, thinking, catch me. As he hit the ground hard and rolled, it was too late, and nothing happened. He yells, why did you not catch me? And all of the grass and trees abruptly move, causing a scream to be heard. Naruto blinked and saw a creature fall from a tree and hit the ground hard. As he approached the creature, he noticed that it resembled a Venus flytrap with a man in the center, but that the man was covered in burns and blood. As he attempted to move away from Naruto, the man turned to face him and uttered the words, stay back, don't come any closer. Stop Naruto, he's with Atatsuki, said Jiraiya when she appeared. After remembering that name, Naruto became enraged once more. Then, the man screamed and his body was covered in more burns, which made Naruto forget his insanity. Please stop doing that, said the man. When Jiraiya realized he was in trouble, he pretended to be innocent and asked, what are we doing? In his own words, his chakra, it's poison to me and all plants. With a blink, Naruto uttered, what, he's right, Naruto, I'll explain later. Jiraiya said, please don't get upset, but I want you to approach him slowly. Naruto blinked and the man said, you damn demon. Naruto nodded and began to walk, but nothing happened. The man screamed, and Naruto squirmed back. Jiraiya chuckled and remarked, so tell me, what does Atatsuki want with the tailed demons? I won't talk, the man said. Naruto called Tenten a slut, Jiraiya remarked. The man screamed as more burns appeared on his body, and Naruto became enraged. Jiraiya inquired, what was that? To bring about world peace and control the world, the panting man said. After we bankrupt every other country, we hope to put an end to all conflicts. Jiraiya inquired, how do you use the demons? The man screamed again and said, all right, we have a statue that is made from some special wood that can neutralize demon chakra, and the rings we have make it where we can use them like the vessels could. As Naruto watched and the man looked around, Naruto became enraged at the man for attempting to flee. Stop, please. Naruto inquired, what brings you here? I was following Te weird plant chakra I felt, the man stated. Who are your leaders? Inquired Jiraiya. Pain. His name is Pain, the man said. As he approached, Naruto asked, what's your name? He said, Zetsu. After slicing Zetsu in 2 with his sword, Naruto uttered the words, your lettuce now. Then, after glancing at the man and flicking his wrist to get the blood off it, he reached out and took the ring from his hand and placed it on his finger. According to Jiraiya, you could have let him live. Naruto responded, no, I decided to kill him before he came for me and my family because I was told that every enemy I let slip away would be twice as strong the next time I face him. What's happening, then? The Hokage received a report about a man who was attacked by a vine in town after we returned from the wave. Jiraiya stated the vine was dead when Yamato and I went to look at it. It has no life at all. If the plant was, say, a tree with grass that only lasts a few months, the chakra would continue to move in it for years after it died. Naruto responds by nodding. It's something to do with the cells that carry oxygen and other gases as well as nutrients. Yamato and I assumed it had something to do with your bloodline, but we weren't positive, Jiraiya said. Nodding, I sent a toad to inspect the area where you and I fought, and now all the plants there are dead. With wide eyes, Naruto uttered, my bloodline killed them. Yes and no, said Jiraiya. You see how nothing happened when you were right next to Zetsu, but when you got angry, something else happened. Naruto questioned, what? Before he began training you, Yamato told Jiraiya, you would unintentionally draw on Kyuubi chakra when you were angry. You are still drawing Kyuubi chakra now that your bloodline has fully awakened, but it is killing your plants instead of you. Naruto inquired, what does that mean for me exactly? Remember how you would send your chakra out and then come back with nature chakra, Naruto said as he followed Jiraiya's gaze and saw that all the trees and other vegetation were beginning to die. When you are angry, you release Kyuubi chakra while still drawing nature chakra, but once the plant loses all of its nature chakra, it is unable to withstand the demon chakra and perishes, Jiraiya said as Naruto nodded. Additionally, when you're angry, you can manipulate plants with your thoughts because, in essence, your chakra is changing the cells in the plants, causing them to change into bamboo, vines, and other things when they shouldn't. So I can't use my bloodline? Inquired Naruto. I never said that, Jiraiya said as he handed Naruto a seed. He said, okay, think about what you want that to do and channel your chakra. It's a rose seed, consider a rose from your lessons, and then let it change according to that. After giving it some thought, Naruto asked, okay, what now? As the seed abruptly turned into a rose whip. After grabbing it and holding it, Jiraiya questioned, notice anything? It's not dying, Naruto said after taking a look. That's how your bloodline should be used, Jiraiya said, nodding. If at all possible, avoid getting angry, and if you do, use your bloodline as a defense in addition to preventing the plants from dying. Using it that way will allow you to teach your children what you have learned because they won't have access to Kyuubi. So why did you not tell me this sooner? Asked Naruto, nodding. We weren't sure about it, so I had to wait to see when you got mad again, Jiraiya said. When I got the report from the toad we left back with the bandits, I was going to tell you even though you were furious when you used a jutsu. It remained in place for about 5 minutes before the vines holding the nin down died and disintegrated, allowing the toad to sit on him. With a nod, Naruto explained, so no more using it like I did against you. I don't know, Jiraiya said. If you figure out the right way, you might be able to do it, but it won't work the way you did when you were angry. Alright, while you're on your way to your next mission, make some cage bunshin and have them work on the Rasengan. With wide eyes, Jiraiya exclaimed, damn, so what's the others going to do since I only gave you 200 water balloons? As Naruto nodded and produced 1000 cage bunshins. Naruto inquired, do you have the other things needed for the other steps? With a sigh, Jiraiya took out another scroll and declared, the rubber balls inside are identical to the first test. You must practice popping this as well, and before moving on to the final step, you must be able to do both. With a nod, Naruto distributes the rubber balls and water balloons and asks, you got anything else they can work on? After giving it some thought, Jiraiya said, yeah, you can try my jutsu. You can use your earth affinity with this jutsu, earth style. Mudwave is the name of it. You must drive your chakra into the ground, draw the earth back, and then launch it in the direction of your adversary. He showed them to the clones, who all nodded and left to work. Here are the handines. The actual Naruto questioned, so what now? Easy, Jiraiya said, you have a task to finish. Proceed. Jiraiya approached the body, scowled, and said, you're lucky, Naruto, that his bloodline makes him part plant or you could have been dead. He then took out a kunai and sealed the head into a scroll. Naruto nods and leaps off in the direction he was previously going. While running, Naruto paused to glance at the mission scroll and read it once more. The rank escort mission is Mission BA. Konoha Ninja has been requested by a client to accompany a guest to a wedding in the village known as Kanku City. You are expected to represent your village and refrain from fighting unless your employer orders you to. Why would they want us not to fight? Asked Naruto as he made his way to the village. He said, I'm sure there's only one way to find out. Tenten, who was covered in bruises like Sakura, sighed and remarked, I bet Naruto-kun don't have it this hard. Tenten was sitting on the ground as Tsunade had called a break, one break in 8 hours to allow the kids to eat, and now they were getting another one.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.